The candle hissed as if it knew what had been done. Jaime Lannister leaned over the basin and watched his own face ripple in the water. In the wavering reflection, the Kingsguard looked like a stranger. Jaw clenched too tight, eyes too bright, the pale hair falling in loose strands instead of a courtly comb. He plunged his hands into the cold and scrubbed until his knuckles blanched, as if skin could be punished clean. The water reddened anyway, not with blood, but with the memory of it, with the fever of an act that would not stay in the past. A child's hands, a child's startled gasp, stone beneath a heel, air rushing up like a scream with no throat. He lifted his gaze to the black gap of the window, where the north lay in its own silence. Somewhere below, in a room lined with furs and prayers, Brandon Stark fought for breath. The castle did not sound different. Men still laughed in the hall. Wolves still howled on distant ridges. The wind still prowled the battlements like a patient beast. But Jaime heard the world as if it had a crack running through it. The door opened without ceremony. Cersei never knocked when she was angry. She entered as if the chamber belonged to her, because in truth it always had. Her gown was the deep red of old wine, and the gold thread along her sleeves caught the candlelight like thin flames. Her face was composed in the way a knife could be composed, beautiful, gleaming, meant to cut. "You're awake," she said. It was not a question. "So are you." Jaime's voice sounded hoarse, as if he had swallowed smoke. Cersei's eyes flicked to the basin. The water trembled again with his hands. "Stop that. You'll make yourself raw. That's the idea." She crossed the stone floor with measured steps, her skirts whispering. She did not come to comfort. Comfort was for children and septas. She came for control and for certainty. "Bran Stark is not dead," she said, like a verdict delivered to a court that could not argue back. Jaime stared at his reddened fingers. "Not yet. Not at all," she corrected, sharper. "He will wake. He will have forgotten. Or he will be too damaged to speak. Or," her nostrils flared, "or we will handle it. Handle it." The words landed like a gauntlet thrown on stone. Jaime's mouth twitched in something that might once have been a smile. Handle it how, exactly? Push him again. Cersei's face did not change, but her eyes did. A darkening, a warning. "Do not mock me. I'm mocking myself." Jaime straightened. The damp of his hands made his armor feel colder. "I've killed before. Men. Soldiers. A king. I told myself it was necessity. I told myself it was honor. I told myself it was mercy." His laugh came out too short. "Now it's a boy, in his father's home." "You did what you had to do," Cersei said. "You did what I needed. The old cadence. The old chain." She spoke and the world was supposed to bend, because bending had always been easier than breaking. Jaime looked at her. For a long moment, he could only see her mouth, the shape of it around the lie they lived, the lie that had become their heartbeat. He remembered her in the September at home in Casterly Rock, their hands brushing like thieves, their shared breath in the dark, the first time he realized that the world outside their two bodies was a distant rumor. He also remembered her face when he pushed. No horror, no guilt, only calculation. She had not flinched. She had watched him do it as if it were a door being closed. "Needed," Jaime repeated. "Yes." Cersei stepped closer until she could have touched his cheek. She did not. "You're not to be seen like this," she said quietly. "If you falter, if you look hunted, Eddard Stark will smell it. He's already suspicious. He thinks he's the only honest man in the realm, and that makes him dangerous." Jaime's eyes cut to the candle. The flame bent toward the window as the wind found a crack. "He's not suspicious of me," Jaime said. "He hates me on principle. That's different." "It isn't." Cersei's voice softened, and that softness was always more treacherous than her anger. "You must be Jaime. You must be certain. You must be the Kingslayer who does not care what they whisper. The Kingslayer." The word that had followed him like a dog that never tired, snapping at his heels in every hall, every tourney, every feast. Jaime had worn it the way he wore his white cloak, as armor, until tonight, when the cloak felt like a lie draped over rot. "I'm tired of being their story," he said. Cersei's hand rose then, quick, and for a heartbeat he thought she would slap him. Instead she cupped his jaw, nails digging just enough to remind him who she was. "We are our story," she murmured. "Not theirs." Her gaze locked him in place. It always had. He felt, absurdly, like a boy again in the rock, all knees and longing, ready to set the world on fire for her. Then he saw Bran Stark's face in the basin water, pale as milk glass, eyes open in that last instant before the fall. And something inside Jaime, the part of him that had been smothered under years of obedience to love, twitched awake. "We're leaving," he said. Cersei's hand stilled. "We were always leaving." "No." Jaime pulled back, gentle but firm, and her hand fell away as if it had lost its right. "Not Winterfell. Not just Winterfell." He took a breath, and it tasted like frost. "I'm leaving this." Cersei stared, as if he had begun speaking in a foreign tongue. "What are you saying?" Jaime heard himself answer before he could think it through, because thought had been his enemy for too long. "I'm going to confess." The candle popped. Somewhere far away, a door banged, and footsteps echoed through stone corridors like distant drumbeats. Cersei's lips parted in disbelief that curdled almost instantly into contempt. "Confess," she said, as if tasting poison. "To whom? To Eddard Stark? To Robert Baratheon? To the whole bloody realm?" "Yes." Her laugh was low and dangerous. "You will. Destroy us. I already nearly destroyed a boy." Jaime's voice shook now, but he did not swallow it down. "If he wakes and speaks, we die anyway. If he dies, we live with it. Either way, the gods have set a blade above our heads." Cersei stepped in again, eyes bright. "There are no gods," she snapped. "Only men, and men can be bought, threatened, seduced, killed. We have done it before." Jaime looked at her, truly looked, and saw the cold center she had always carried. It had drawn him in because it matched the cold center the world had carved into him. But now he felt heat in his chest that was not desire. It was something uglier and purer. "Not this time," he said. "Not like this." Cersei's voice dropped to a whisper. "If you do this, Tywin Lannister will come with fire and gold. There will be war. The children." Jaime flinched at the word. Children. Not heirs. Not pawns. Children with their small fingers and their soft hair, with laughs that sounded like bells when the world was kind. "I know," he said. "That's why I'm confessing before it becomes a knife in someone else's hand. If I speak first, I control what follows. I can ask for exile. I can ask for the children to be spared." Cersei's gaze sharpened. "You think Eddard Stark will spare them?" "I think Eddard Stark will do what is right, even if it costs him," Jaime said. "And that's the only sort of man you can bargain with honestly." Cersei's mouth twisted. "You're a fool." "Maybe." Jaime's hands were steady now, strangely. "But I'm done being a coward." For the first time, Cersei's composure cracked into something like fear. "Jaime," she said, and there was a plea buried under the poison. "Don't leave me alone in this." It struck him then that she had never once asked him not to do the deed. She asked him now not because she regretted it, but because she feared the consequences. "I'm not leaving you," he said quietly. "I'm trying to save you." Cersei stared as if he had struck her. Then her face hardened again, colder than stone. "If you speak," she said, "I will deny it. I will call you mad. I will say you were bewitched, bribed, threatened. You can try." Jaime's voice was gentle, almost sad. "But you know me, Cersei. When I swear something, I keep it." She smiled then, thin and cruel. "You kept your Kingsguard oaths, did you?" The words landed perfectly. She always knew where to press. Jaime's throat tightened. He remembered Aerys screaming for wildfire. He remembered the smell of burned flesh and green flame. He remembered plunging steel into his king and feeling the world tilt. He had broken his oath then, and the realm had never forgiven him. Exactly, Jaime said. And I lived with that. I can live with this too. He turned toward the door. Cersei's voice snapped behind him. If you do this, I will hate you. Jaime paused with his hand on the iron latch. He did not look back. You already do, he said softly. Whenever I'm not useful. He left her in the candlelight, the red and gold of her dress burning like a banner in a room that suddenly felt like a tomb. In the corridor outside, Winterfell's cold air struck his face and cleared his head. Men were moving through the keep, servants whispering, guards shifting. Somewhere, a dire wolf howled, long and grieving, and Jaime felt as if the sound had come from his own ribs. He walked toward the stairs, toward the night, toward whatever judgment waited beyond the walls. With each step, the white cloak on his shoulders felt heavier, and yet, for the first time in years, he could breathe beneath it. The Godswood was quieter than the rest of Winterfell, as if even stone knew to lower its voice there. Frost clung to the grass and made each blade sparkle like a thin shard of glass. The pool lay dark and still beneath the weirwood's spreading limbs, and the heart tree's face watched with its carved eyes, red sap staining its cheeks like eternal tears. Tyrion Lannister stood with one boot on a half-buried root, cup of wine cradled in his gloved hand as if it were warmth. He looked too awake for the hour, which meant he had not slept at all. When Jaime approached, the dwarf's eyes lifted, sharp and knowing. You're walking like a man going to his own execution, Tyrion said. Should I clap to cheer you up? Jaime stopped beneath the weirwood's branches. The leaves above rustled faintly, though there was little wind. I've done something, he said. Tyrion took a slow sip. That narrows it down to every moment of your life. Jaime exhaled, a white cloud in the cold. Bran Stark. Tyrion's cup paused halfway to his mouth. For a heartbeat, even his wit froze. Ah, he said quietly. That. Jaime waited. He did not know what he wanted from Tyrion. Absolution, perhaps, or condemnation, or a simple hand on his shoulder like they were boys again. Tyrion gave him none of those. He only studied him as if measuring the shape of a crack in a wall. He fell, Tyrion said. He flew. Jaime's voice was flat. Tyrion's gaze flicked to the carved face in the tree. And why did he fly, brother? Jaime looked at the pool. The black water held no answers. Because he saw, Jaime said. Because I panicked. Because I thought. He swallowed. Because I chose us over him. Tyrion's mouth twisted. Us? He echoed, and there was something bitter in it. You mean Cersei? Jaime's shoulders tightened. Don't do that. Don't do what? Speak plainly? Tyrion leaned his back against the weirwood's trunk as if daring the old gods to strike him. You've been choosing Cersei over the world since you could walk. I'm not surprised you did it again. Jaime's mouth tightened. He wasn't supposed to. No, Tyrion interrupted, and his voice cut through the quiet like a knife through cloth. He wasn't supposed to be a child climbing a tower in his father's home. That's what you mean. Not that he wasn't supposed to see. Tyrion's eyes narrowed. Tell me, is he dead? No. Yet. Jaime flinched. The words came too easily from Tyrion's mouth. The same cold practicality Cersei wielded. And yet Tyrion's eyes were different. There was a sorrow there that Tyrion tried to drown with wine and laughter and sharper words. What do you want from me? Jaime asked. Tyrion tilted his cup, watching the wine swirl. Honesty, he said, for once. Not the pretty lies you tell yourself. Not the stories you tell Cersei. The truth. Jaime's throat tightened. The truth tasted like iron. I'm going to confess, he said. The raven above them croaked, loud as a judge. Tyrion stared. Then he laughed, once abruptly without humor. 7 save us, he said. You really are walking to your execution.
I'm tired, Tyrion.
Tired? Tyrion's voice sharpened. Of what? Of being rich? Of being handsome? Of having women sigh at your boots? He took another sip, then lowered the cup and looked at Jaime with naked seriousness. Or tired of the thing you did in the throne room when you were 17 and the realm spat on you for it? Jaime's jaw tightened. Both. Tyrion's gaze softened, just slightly. And why now? He asked. Because of a boy? Yes. Jaime's voice broke on the word. He hated that it did. Because I heard him gasp when He stopped. The old gods listened too closely. Tyrion stared at him for a long moment. Do you think confession makes you a good man? No, Jaime said. I think confession makes me a man who stops pretending. Tyrion's mouth twitched. That might be the rarest thing in the Seven Kingdoms. Jaime stepped closer, lowering his voice. If I speak first, I can ask for exile. I can ask that the children are spared. I can keep Tywin from marching the moment the truth comes out. Tyrion's eyes flickered at the mention of their father, and something hard tightened around his mouth. You think father can be kept from anything? Tyrion said quietly. By words. Jaime held his gaze. I think father can be kept from war by leverage, he said. By choices. By the realm seeing me punished and the children protected. By the lie dying with me instead of breeding into something worse. Tyrion let out a slow breath. And what of Cersei? He asked. Jaime's mouth tightened. She will deny it. She will rage. She will call me mad. She will call you a traitor, Tyrion said, and there was no jest in it. And she will mean it. Jaime looked away toward the black pool. I don't care. Tyrion's hand reached out suddenly and caught Jaime's wrist. The grip was small but fierce. You do care, Tyrion said. You care so much it's killing you. That's why you're here, talking to a tree, asking a dwarf for permission. Jaime met Tyrion's eyes again. Then don't give it, he said. Stop me. Tyrion's grip loosened. He looked at Jaime as if seeing him clearly for the first time in years. Not the Golden Knight, not the Kingslayer, not the favorite son father polished like a sword. Just a man, shaking inside armor that no longer fit. I can't stop you, Tyrion said softly, and I don't know if I should. Jaime swallowed. If I do this, you'll be in danger too. Tyrion snorted, the old sharpness returning like a familiar cloak. Brother, I'm always in danger. Being me is an invitation for men with better legs to try to kick me down. He paused. But yes, if you confess, father will need someone to blame who is not him. Cersei will need someone to hate who is not herself. And Robert, he shook his head. Robert will want blood. Jaime's face tightened. Then help me, he said. If I fall, keep the children alive. Keep them from being butchered for our sins. Tyrion's eyes were dark in the dawn light. You're asking me to protect the children you made with my sister, he said slowly. From the king you humiliated, and from the father who raised us to believe weakness is death. Jaime held his gaze. Yes. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint rustle of red leaves overhead. Then Tyrion lifted his cup in a small salute. Very well, he said. If you insist on playing the hero, I will play the monster who survives long enough to clean up the blood. Jaime's throat tightened. Thank you. Tyrion grimaced. Don't thank me. It makes me itchy. His voice softened again. Tell me one thing, Jaime. Jaime waited. Tyrion's eyes flicked up to the weirwood's carved face. When you confess, he said, will you confess everything? Jaime thought of the tower, thought of the bed, thought of the children's faces, thought of the throne room long ago, and the king he killed to save strangers who still called him villain. Yes, he said, everything. Tyrion nodded once, solemn as any septa. Then do it properly, he said. Do it publicly. Do it where the realm cannot pretend it did not hear. And when the knives come out, he raised his cup. Try not to bleed on my boots. Jaime's laugh was small and genuine, the first warmth he had felt since the boy fell. No promises, he said. As he turned to leave, the raven above them croaked again, and Jaime could not help imagining it was the old gods, amused and hungry, watching a lion walk toward the slaughterhouse with his head held high. The north watched them leave the way a wounded animal watched hunters. Silent, unblinking, remembering every face. Winterfell's gates stood open, swallowing the last of the wagons and horses as the royal party spilled onto the King's Road. The road itself was a scar cut through frost and mud, churned by hooves and wheels. Breath rose from men and animals in pale plumes, and the banners, stag and lion, direwolf and crowned hart, snapped in the wind like arguments. Jaime rode among the white cloaks, his posture straight, his face composed. That was the trick of being Jaime Lannister. You could be cracking inside and still look carved from marble outside. He kept his gaze forward. If he looked back, if he saw the Stark women on the walls, the grief and suspicion braided into their stares, he might lose the thin thread of resolve he had spun in the Godswood. Robert Baratheon rode ahead, laughing too loud at something Ser Barristan Selmy murmured, as if laughter could beat back winter itself. He looked enormous on horseback, a mountain of flesh and fur-lined cloak, his beard thick and black, his eyes bright with a man's careless appetite for life. But even from behind, Jaime could see the heaviness in Robert's shoulders, the sluggishness in the way he sat. A king who had once hammered men to death for sport now carried his crown like a weight he resented. Eddard Stark rode nearby, silent, watchful, as if every will creak and hoofbeat was a message written in sound. Ned's face was the face of the North, stern, weathered, loyal to things unseen. Jaime could feel Ned's hatred like a cold hand at his back. It did not matter. Hate was simpler than suspicion. Suspicion was what killed. The wagon that carried Cersei rolled beside them, red curtains drawn. Jaime did not look at it, but he felt her gaze anyway. He imagined her eyes behind the cloth, green, bright, furious. He wondered if she thought she could still pull him back, like a hook in flesh. He wondered if she was already sharpening words to slice him open in front of the king. A shout rose from the walls. Jaime glanced up despite himself. Catelyn Stark stood there with her daughters, her face pale and tight. Arya Stark's hair whipped in the wind like a wild banner, her small fists clenched. Sansa Stark stood stiff beside her, pretty and frightened. And beside them, in black and gray, Jon Snow watched with a stillness that felt too old for his years, his eyes dark and distant. For a heartbeat, Jaime saw himself in the bastard's gaze. A man marked by a name he did not choose, surrounded by a family that loved him and yet kept him at the edge. Then the road bent, and the walls of Winterfell disappeared behind trees and rising mist. The north was gone, but its cold remained in Jaime's bones. The first day passed in the rhythm of travel. Halt, march, halt again. Men joked. Horses snorted. Someone sang a rude song that made squires laugh. The king drank from a skin and called for more. Life went on because life always went on until it didn't. That night, they made camp near a stand of dark pines. Fires dotted the clearing like orange eyes. Jaime sat apart from the louder circles, his back against a log, his sword across his knees. He watched the flames eat wood and thought of wildfire, of green fire, of a king who had wanted to burn the world. A shadow fell over him. Eddard Stark stood there, cloak drawn tight, his face half lit by fire. He did not sit. He did not offer greeting. "Ser Jaime," Ned said. Jaime rose smoothly, as if his heart was not trying to kick through his ribs. "Lord Stark." Ned's eyes flicked over Jaime's white cloak, the golden lion on his breastplate, the relaxed hand resting near the hilt. "My son," Ned said, and the words were hard. "Still lives." Jaime held his gaze. "So I've heard." Ned's jaw clenched. "You hear nothing in Winterfell without wanting to," Ned said. "I want you to understand something. If my son dies..." "I know," Jaime said quietly. Ned blinked, as if the calmness startled him. "Do you?" Jaime's mouth tightened. "I know what a father becomes when his child is taken," he said. "I've seen it." Ned's eyes narrowed. "You've never been a father." Jaime felt the words like a blow. He thought of Joffrey's smug grin, Myrcella's shy smile, Tommen's soft laughter. Children who were his and not his. Children who carried a lie in their veins. "No," Jaime said softly. I've never been allowed to be. Ned's gaze sharpened, suspicion flickering like a candle threatened by wind. What are you talking about? Jaime forced his face into the familiar mask. Nothing, he lied, and the lie tasted like ash. Ned stared at him a moment longer. Then he nodded once, stiffly, as if storing the shape of Jaime's words for later. If my son dies, Ned repeated, there will be an accounting. Jaime inclined his head. There should be, he said before he could stop himself. Ned's brows drew together, and for a heartbeat Jaime thought he might reach for his sword. But Ned only turned away, cloak swirling, and walked back toward his own fire. Jaime sat again, his hands gripping his sword too tightly. He had not meant to bait Ned. He had not meant to give anything away. But truth had become restless in him, like a beast pacing behind ribs, and it was beginning to show its teeth. Across the clearing, Robert's laughter rolled, loud and careless. Jaime watched the king drink, watched him clap a man on the shoulder, watched him look like the realm's dream of strength. Jaime wondered how much strength would remain when the dream shattered. He rose and walked toward the edge of camp, away from firelight. The trees swallowed him in shadow. The night smelled of pine and cold earth. He stared south, toward King's Landing, toward a throne made of swords, toward the place where he had murdered a king and been made into a monster. I did it for them, he whispered to the dark, though no one listened. I did it for the real. The darkness did not answer, but somewhere deep inside, the boy's gasp did. And Jaime knew that when he spoke his confession, he would not be speaking for the realm. He would be speaking for a child who had not deserved to fall. Sleep came in pieces, jagged and unwanted. Jaime lay beneath his cloak with the ground hard under his back and the night colder than any bed in the Red Keep. The camp sounds faded, laughter sinking into snores, horses stamping, guards muttering as they traded watches. But inside Jaime's skull, the past did not sleep. He dreamed of the throne room, not the throne room as it was now, filled with banners and courtiers and Robert's booming voice. The throne room of Aerys II Targaryen was a different beast. Hotter, sharper, filled with the metallic scent of fear. He saw the Iron Throne rising like a cage of blades. He saw the dragon skulls watching from the walls like dead gods. He heard Aerys' voice, high and brittle, burn them all. The words came with the heat of wildfire, a green shimmer that danced in Jaime's dream until it painted everything sickly and unreal. He saw pyromancers carrying jars, their hands shaking. He saw servants crying as they were shoved aside. He saw his own hands gripping his sword, knuckles white, sweat slick. He saw himself hesitate. That was the part the realm never believed, that he had hesitated. They thought the Kingslayer had been eager, that he had wanted glory, that he had wanted to break an oath for sport. They never imagined him standing there, 17, terrified, listening to a king order the deaths of 500,000 souls. He woke with a gasp, sitting upright, hand on his sword as if the steel might anchor him. The fire nearby had burned down to coals. The darkness beyond the camp pressed close, and in it he could almost hear Bran Stark's breath, shallow and fragile. Jaime stood, his joints stiff, and walked toward the edge of camp. He moved without thinking, drawn by the need to be alone, to sit with the crack in his chest and see if it would widen or heal. The trees were thick here, branches tangled like claws. The moonlight barely reached the ground. Jaime stopped where the shadows were deepest and leaned his forehead against the rough bark of a pine. I saved them, he whispered, though there was no one to hear. I saved them all. He remembered the feel of the Mad King's blood, hot and sudden. He remembered the moment after, when the throne room went silent except for his own breath. He remembered sitting on the Iron Throne, not because he wanted it, but because his legs had gone weak and he had nowhere else to put himself. He remembered the doors bursting open, Eddard Stark striding in with his men, his face like ice. What did he think he saw? A boy on a throne of swords, smiling? A villain basking in murder? He had never asked. Pride kept his mouth shut, and the realm's contempt built a wall around him stone by stone. Now he thought of Ned's eyes at the campfire, the way suspicion had flared when Jaime spoke too much. Jaime realized, with a bitter twist, that Ned Stark had been right about him in one way. Jaime had always chosen silence. He had always let the world make him into whatever monster it wanted, because arguing required caring, and caring required vulnerability. But Bran Stark's fall had ripped something open. Silence no longer felt like armor, felt like complicity. He returned to camp before dawn, his steps quiet. As he passed Robert's tent, he heard the king's voice, muffled, drunken, laughing with someone inside. Jaime paused, hand on the tent flap, and for a heartbeat imagined storming in, kneeling, and spilling the truth at Robert's feet right there, in the dark, before sunrise. He did not yet. He needed the realm. He needed witnesses. He needed men like Varys and Littlefinger to hear it, so they could not twist it into rumor. He needed the faith to hear it, so it would become sin acknowledged. He needed Eddard Stark to hear it, so the North could not claim deception. He needed Cersei to hear it too, though he did not know why, except that some part of him still wanted her to understand that he was not abandoning her for virtue, but for survival. In the gray light of morning, as the camp stirred, Jaime mounted his horse and rode south with the others. His face was calm again, the mask restored. But beneath the mask, the truth paced like a caged lion, and the closer they drew to King's Landing, the louder its breathing became. They stopped at the inn because Robert demanded it, the way Robert demanded everything, with hunger in his voice and impatience in his stride. The inn at the Crossroads squatted beside the King's Road like a fat toad, smoke curling from its chimney, the yard churned into slurry by hooves and boots. Men clustered around barrels, drinking and laughing, while women carried bread and stew with eyes lowered, practiced in the art of not being noticed. The arrival of the king turned the place into a nest kicked open. Small folk dropped to knees, spilling ale and mud. Innkeepers bowed until their backs might snap. Soldiers shoved people aside to make space for nobles who pretended not to see the bruises their boots left behind. Jaime dismounted and felt the stares immediately. They came like arrows. Curious, resentful, hungry. The Kingslayer, the Golden Lion, the man who wore white and broke oaths. Jaime could taste their whispers even when he could not hear the words. He handed his reins to a stable boy who looked no older than Bran Stark. The boy's hands shook, but he held the horse anyway, eyes wide. Jaime forced himself not to flinch. Inside, the inn was thick with heat and noise. Robert took a seat as if claiming territory, slamming his tankard down and demanding meat. Renly Baratheon lounged beside him, handsome and bright, his smile easy. Stannis was not there. Stannis never was when the room required charm. Peter Baelish leaned against a post near the back, his eyes gleaming with amused calculation. Varys sat in the shadows, hands folded, face serene, watching everything. Grand Maester Pycelle fussed near the fire, muttering about drafts. Ser Barristan stood like a statue at Robert's shoulder, a white cloak that carried honor like weight. Eddard Stark sat apart with his men, his posture stiff, his eyes scanning the room as if it might hide an assassin behind every mug. Jaime found himself near the bar, cup of watered wine in hand, not drinking. He watched the room the way a man watched a battlefield. He saw how quickly joy turned to fear when Robert raised his voice. He saw how men laughed at Renly's jokes even when they did not understand them. He saw how Varys's gaze moved like a spider's legs, touching every corner. He saw Littlefinger's smile sharpen whenever someone glanced away, and he saw himself in the eyes of the small folk, an emblem of a court they could not enter, a sinner in white, a story told by men who did not know him.
A man bumped Jaime's shoulder, sloshing ale.
The man was broad, red-faced, his breath sour. He squinted up at Jaime's cloak. "Kingslayer," the man muttered. Jaime's hand tightened around his cup. "That's Ser Kingslayer to you?" he said lightly, the old sarcasm rising like a shield. The man's eyes narrowed. "You think it's funny?" he spat. You think killing kings is sport? Jaime's mouth tightened. He was my king, he said quietly. The man snorted. All kings are our kings, he said, and there was something raw in it. The bitterness of a life lived under other men's decisions. But you lot kill them and call it honor. Jaime stared at him. For a heartbeat, he saw not an insolent drunk but a man with a wife and children. A man who would burn if wildfire took the city. A man Jaime had saved without thanks. You're right, Jaime said softly. It wasn't sport. The man blinked, thrown off balance by the lack of fight. He spat on the floor and stalked away, muttering curses. Jaime stood still, chest tight. He felt eyes on him. Littlefinger's amused interest, Varys's quiet attention, Ned Stark's sharp gaze. Jaime realized suddenly that the realm was always watching him, always waiting for him to perform. They wanted arrogance. They wanted contempt. They wanted a villain in white. What would they do with a confession? Robert roared with laughter at something Renly said and slammed his tankard down hard enough to rattle plates. 7 hells, Robert bellowed. I miss war. Jaime's stomach turned. Robert missed war the way a drunk missed wine. Not for what it cost, but for what it gave him. Purpose, glory, simplicity. Jaime watched Robert's face and saw the boy Robert must have been, wild and loud, swinging a hammer and believing strength could solve everything. Now that boy wore a crown and used laughter to hide the rot beneath. Jaime took a step forward before he could think. He moved through the crowded room toward the king's table. He stopped 3 paces away, as protocol demanded. Ser Barristan's eyes flicked to him, wary. Renly raised an eyebrow, amused. Littlefinger's smile widened, as if smelling entertainment. Robert glanced up, tankard halfway to his mouth. Jaime, he boomed. Come to drink? Or to brood? Jaime's mouth was dry. He felt the room's noise dim, as if the inn itself held its breath. Your Grace, Jaime said. His voice sounded steady, which felt like a lie. Robert grinned. Speak, man. Jaime looked at the king, at the man he was about to destroy. He thought of the boy in the tower, of Cersei's eyes behind red curtains, of Tyrion's bitter toast in the godswood. He felt the truth rise, hot and sharp. Then he saw Eddard Stark watching from across the room, and Jaime understood something with sudden clarity. Confession here would not be control. It would be chaos in mud and smoke, without witnesses who mattered, without the weight of court, without the faith. It would be a tavern brawl that became a rumor. It would not save the children. It would only spill blood on the floor. Jaime swallowed the words back down. Nothing, he said quietly. Only to ask your pardon, your grace. The road has been long. Robert's grin faltered, then returned. Ah, the road will be longer when you're old, he said, clapping his tankard down. Drink. You need it. Jaime bowed and stepped back, heart pounding. The room's noise returned, louder than before, as if it mocked his hesitation. Varys's eyes met his for a heartbeat, soft, curious. Lee. Clefinger's grin sharpened, as if he had seen something slip. Ned Stark's gaze remained fixed, cold. Jaime returned to the bar and set his untouched cup down. His hands were shaking. Not yet, he told himself again. Not here, but soon. Soon, before the realm could turn the truth into another weapon in someone else's hand. Outside, in the muddy yard, the stable boy laughed at something another child said, carefree for a moment. Jaime watched him and felt the weight of what he had done press against his ribs until it hurt to breathe. He left the inn without drinking, and the whispers followed him out into the cold. King's Landing hit him like a familiar fist. The city stank of smoke and salt and too many bodies pressed too close. It was not the clean cold of the north. It was heat trapped between walls, rot hidden under perfume, laughter too loud and too desperate. The streets writhed with life. Fishmongers shouting, whores leaning in doorways, children darting between legs like rats. Above it all, the Red Keep rose, its stone tinted red by the setting sun, making it look as if the fortress had been built from dried blood. Jaime rode through the gates with the white cloaks, his horse stepping high to avoid filth. The crowd cheered for Robert, cried blessings, waved ragged banners. They did not cheer for Jaime. They watched him with the same hungry curiosity he had felt at the inn, only sharper here. Because King's Landing remembered the day he killed Ares, remembered the whispers, remembered the oath he broke. As he dismounted in the courtyard, servants rushed to take horses. Guards snapped orders. The city's noise dulled beneath the keep's walls, replaced by the echo of footsteps on stone. Cersei stepped from her wagon like a queen returning to her throne. Her face was calm, her movements graceful, her eyes bright with a dangerous kind of relief. She looked at home here in a way she had never looked at home in Winterfell. The Red Keep was her weapon. She knew every corridor, every secret staircase, every ear that could be bought. Varys waited near the steps, robed in soft silks, his smile gentle. Littlefinger stood beside him, leaning casually, looking like a man enjoying a play only he understood. "My lords," Jaime greeted curtly, more out of habit than courtesy. "Ser Jaime," Varys said, voice warm as honey. "How good to see you return safely. The North can be unforgiving." "Everything is unforgiving," Jaime said. Littlefinger's grin widened. "Some things are worth enduring," he murmured, eyes flicking briefly toward Cersei, then back to Jaime. "Especially for family." Jaime's stomach tightened. He did not respond. He followed Robert inside, through halls lined with tapestries and torches. The keep smelled of wax and stone and old power. It also smelled, faintly, of Cersei, her perfume lingering like a promise and a threat. In the privacy of his chambers, Jaime removed his armor piece by piece. Each buckle undone felt like peeling off a skin. When he finally sat on the edge of his bed, wearing only a linen shirt, he realized his hands were raw from washing, the knuckles split. He stared at them as if they belonged to someone else. A knock came at the door. He knew before it opened. Cersei entered without waiting for permission, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Her gown this time was green, the color of wildfire glass, and her hair was braided with gold thread. She looked like the woman men wrote songs about. Jaime felt no comfort in it now. "You've been avoiding me," she said. "I've been preparing." Cersei's eyes narrowed. "Preparing to betray me," she corrected. Jaime stood. "I'm preparing to speak the truth." Cersei moved closer, voice low. "You think truth is a shield," she hissed. "Truth is a blade, and you're pointing it at us." "At me," Jaime said. "I'm pointing it at me." Cersei laughed softly. "Don't pretend you can separate yourself from us," she said. "You are mine. I am yours. That's what we are." Jaime felt the old pull, the old gravity, and it frightened him. "We're poison," he said quietly. "We always have been." Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist, nails digging. "Say that again," she whispered. Jaime met her gaze. "We're poison," he repeated, and his voice did not shake this time. "And I'm done pretending it tastes like wine." Cersei's face twisted in fury. "You think the realm will thank you?" she spat. "They will tear you apart. They will kill you, and they will kill me, and they will kill our children. They will hold Joffrey down and cut him open to see if Lannister blood pours out." Jaime's stomach lurched. He forced himself to breathe. "Not if I speak carefully," he said. "Not if I offer exile. Not if I demand, publicly, that the children be spared, that they be treated as innocents." Cersei's grip tightened. "Demand?" she echoed, mocking. "From whom? Robert, the drunk with a hammer and a temper? He will kill you in the throne room. He will laugh while he does it." "Then let him," Jaime said. Cersei stared at him as if he had grown horns. "You don't mean that." "Ido." She released his wrist abruptly, stepping back as if burned. Her eyes were wet now, and the sight struck Jaime harder than her anger. "You're leaving me," she whispered. Jaime swallowed. "No," he said. "I'm trying to keep you alive." Cersei's laugh was broken. "Alive?" she hissed. What is life without power? What is life without our place? Do you want me to live as some cast-off widow in a tower, watched by Septas, begging for scraps? Jaime's voice softened. I want you to live, he said simply. For a long moment, Cersei's face wavered between fury and something like grief. Then the grief hardened into steel. If you do this, she said, I will fight you. Jaime nodded. I know. Cersei's eyes glittered. And I will win, she whispered, because I always do what you cannot. I do what is necessary. Jaime felt a cold calm settle over him. So did I, he said. In the tower. Cersei flinched, and in that flinch Jaime saw, for the first time, that she did not fear sin. She feared being seen. Jaime stepped past her and opened the door. I'm going to the September, he said. Cersei's voice snapped behind him. To pray? She mocked. To ask the faith to witness, Jaime said and left. The corridors of the Red Keep were quiet at this hour. The torches dimmed, the servants fewer. Jaime walked with purpose, boots echoing. He felt eyes on him, guards, servants, shadows. The keep was a living thing, full of secrets. He reached the outer yard and descended tower. The September of Baelor, its great dome glowing faintly in the last of the light. The city's noise rose again around him. People pushed past, shouting, laughing, crying. None of them knew that a confession was walking among them like a spark near oil. Jaime moved through the crowd, head lowered, white cloak brushing strangers. He felt the weight of their lives around him, fragile and messy. He thought of wildfire again, and of how easily a king's madness could have turned this city into ash. He had saved them once, and they had called him monster. Now he would damn himself again, and perhaps this time they would be right. The September smelled like wax and penitence. Candles burned in endless rows, their flames trembling in the draft beneath the dome. The air was heavy with incense, sweet and suffocating, clinging to Jaime's throat. He stepped onto the cold stone floor and felt the vastness of the place press down on him. In Winterfell's godswood, the old gods watched with carved eyes. Here, the seven watched with gilded faces, serene and judging. Jaime walked toward the altar. Each footstep echoed, too loud in the quiet. He could feel eyes on him, septas with lowered gazes, beggars huddled near pillars, a few noblewomen whispering behind veils. The white cloak drew attention like blood in water. At the altar stood the High Septon, draped in heavy robes, a crystal crown catching candlelight. His face was lined, his eyes pale and sharp, his mouth set as if he tasted sin in the air. Jaime knelt, the stone bit into his knees. He bowed his head, and for a moment he wondered if he was capable of prayer. He had not prayed since he was a boy, before oaths became chains and love became poison. Your Holiness, Jaime said quietly. The High Septon's voice drifted down, dry as parchment. Ser Jaime Lannister, he said. The Kingslayer. Jaime winced at the word. Yes. What brings you to the House of the Seven at this hour? The High Septon asked. Do you seek absolution or spectacle? Jaime lifted his gaze. Candlelight danced across the High Septon's crown, making it look like shards of ice. I seek witness, Jaime said, and judgment. The High Septon's eyes narrowed. Judgment belongs to the gods, he said. And to the realm, Jaime answered. I have committed sins against both. Silence stretched. Jaime heard only the faint crackle of candles and the distant murmur of the city outside. The High Septon studied him, as if trying to decide whether this was a confession or a performance. Speak, the High Septon said at last. Jaime's mouth was dry. He swallowed. I will confess publicly, he said. In the throne room, before King Robert Baratheon, the small council, the lords, and the people. A murmur rose among the shadows, quick and hushed, like a flock of birds startled. The High Septon's gaze sharpened. And what sin is so great that it must be spoken before all? He asked. Jaime's heart hammered. All of them, he said. The ones I've carried in silence. The ones I've hidden behind a white cloak. The High Septon's face remained severe. You swore oaths, he said. To the King's Guard, to the King, to the gods. I broke them, Jaime said, and I will speak of it. The High Septon took a slow step closer, robes whispering. If you speak, he said, you will unleash chaos. I know. And if you lie, the High Septon said, voice low, the gods will damn you. Jaime met his gaze. I'm past fearing damnation, he said softly. I've lived in it for years. For the first time, something like curiosity flickered in the High Septon's eyes. Why now? He asked. Jaime thought of Bran Stark's eyes widening in terror. Because a child suffered for my sin, he said. And because my silence will cause more suffering. The High Septon's mouth tightened. The innocent always suffer for the guilty, he said. That is the way of the world. Then I will be guilty openly, Jaime said, so the innocent may have a chance. The High Septon stared at him for a long time. Jaime held still, knees aching, hands clenched. He felt exposed here, stripped of armor by candlelight. At last, the High Septon spoke. The faith will not protect you from the king's wrath, he said, nor from the realm's hatred. I'm not asking for protection, Jaime said. I'm asking for the faith to be present, to witness that the confession is made under the eyes of the seven, so no one can say later that it was rumor. The High Septon's gaze flicked to the shadowed corners, where whispers already grew. Very well, he said. The faith will attend, if the king permits it. Jaime bowed his head. Thank you. The High Septon's voice grew colder. Do not thank me, he said. If you truly intend to confess, you are not brave. You are simply desperate. Jaime's mouth twitched. Perhaps, he said. He rose, legs stiff. As he turned to leave, the High Septon's voice stopped him. One more thing, Ser Jaime, the High Septon said. Jaime looked back. The High Septon's eyes were pale and piercing. When you confess, he said, will you name others? Jaime's breath caught. He thought of Cersei, thought of Tyrion, thought of children. Yes, Jaime said softly, because the truth cannot be half-spoken. The High Septon's face did not soften. Then may the seven have mercy on you, he said. Jaime left the September with the smell of incense clinging to his cloak. Outside, the city's noise crashed over him again, loud and alive. Torches flickered along the street. A drunk man laughed. A child cried. A dog barked. All of it would be different soon, because a confession was coming like a storm. Jaime walked back toward the Red Keep with his head held high, and for the first time in his life, he felt truly afraid. Not of death, but of what might survive him. The Red Keep had its own godswood, smaller than Winterfell's, tucked away like a secret shame in a castle built for the seven. The trees were thinner, the pool smaller, the weirwood less ancient. But the air was still, and the smell of damp earth was the same. Jaime wondered if the old gods could hear through stone and distance, or if they listened only where their roots sank deep. Eddard Stark stood at the edge of the pool, his cloak drawn tight, his breath faintly visible in the cold night. He looked as if he belonged more in shadowed pines than in a southern castle. His hand rested near Ice's hilt, not threateningly, but as if the sword was part of his spine. Jaime stepped into the godswood with measured calm. He did not announce himself. Ned heard him anyway. The Lord turned, eyes narrowing. Ser Jaime, Ned said, voice flat. Lord Stark, Jaime replied. They stared at each other across the dark water, two men bound by oaths and old wounds. Jaime could feel the weight of their history. The throne room, the corpses, the judgment in Ned's eyes. Jaime could have hated Ned for it. Once he had. Now he felt only weary understanding. I didn't expect to find you here, Jaime said. Ned's mouth tightened. I come here when I want quiet, he said. The Red Keep has too many ears. Jaime's gaze flicked toward the trees. It still has ears, he said softly. Ned's eyes sharpened. What do you want? Jaime took a breath. The words he had been carrying pressed against his teeth. He forced them out carefully, like a man easing a blade from a wound. "I'm going to confess," Jaime said.
Ned stared.
"Confess?" he repeated, as if the word did not fit Jaime's mouth. "Yes," Jaime said. In the throne room, Ned's gaze hardened. "To what?" he asked, though something in his tone suggested he already knew there was only one answer worth this. Jaime's throat tightened. "To everything," he said. "To pushing your son. To the lie at the heart of this court." Ned's face went still. The night seemed to hold its breath. "Why tell me?" Ned asked quietly. "Because when I speak," Jaime said, "you will want to kill me, and you will have every right." Ned's jaw clenched. "You pushed my son," he said, voice low and deadly. "You maimed him. You—" His hand tightened on Ice's hilt. "If you confess to that, I will kill you myself." Jaime nodded once. "I know." Ned stared at him, suspicion flickering. "This is a trick," he said. "Some Lannister game." Jaime's mouth twitched bitterly. "If it were a game, I'd be trying to win," he said. "I'm not." Ned's eyes narrowed. "Then why?" he demanded. "Why confess? Why now?" Jaime looked at the pool's black surface. "Because my silence will kill more than your son," he said. "Because if the truth comes out through rumor, through spies, through daggers, the realm will tear itself apart, and the children—" He stopped, breath catching. Ned's gaze sharpened at the word. "Children," Ned said slowly. "Whose children?" Jaime met Ned's eyes. "Cersei's," he said. "And mine." Ned's face tightened, and for a heartbeat Jaime thought Ned might actually draw ice and end it here, quietly, in the Godswood. Jaime did not move. If this was where it ended, at least it would be honest. Ned did not draw. He only stared, the muscles in his jaw working as if chewing rage. "You admit treason," Ned said, voice rough. "You admit incest." Jaime's cheeks burned, not with shame of desire, but with shame of what that desire had done. "Yes." Ned's eyes flicked away for a moment, as if looking at the trees might steady him. When he looked back, his gaze was colder. "Robert will kill you," he said. "I know. And he will kill her," Ned said. "And he will kill the children, or send them to the wall, or worse." Jaime's throat tightened. "That's why I'm speaking," he said. "So someone can argue for them. So you can."
Ned stared.
"You want me to protect the children born of treason?" he said, incredulous. "I want you to protect innocence," Jaime said simply, "because you're the only man in this court who still knows what that word means." Ned's mouth tightened. "Do not flatter me," he snapped. "I am not your savior." "No," Jaime agreed. "You're their chance." Ned's eyes narrowed further. "And what do you want for yourself?" he asked. Jaime breathed out slowly. "Exile," he said. "The wall, if it must be. Stripped of white, stripped of gold. I don't care. I only want the truth spoken." Ned stared at him, as if trying to decide whether this was madness or miracle. "Why would you do that?" he asked, quieter now. "You're a Lannister. You have everything. Why throw it away?" Jaime's mouth twisted. "Because everything I have is built on a lie," he said. "And because I pushed a child to keep it." Ned's gaze did not soften, but something shifted. An understanding, perhaps, that Jaime was not pretending. "If you confess," Ned said slowly, "you will ignite war." Jaime nodded. "I know." Ned's eyes were dark. "Tywin Lannister will not accept disgrace," he said. "He will march." Jaime swallowed. "Then let him march," he said. "At least the realm will know why." Ned stared at him for a long moment, then spoke in a voice like stone. "If you truly confess," he said, "I will not kill you in the Godswood." Jaime blinked, surprised. Ned's gaze stayed hard. "I will let the king judge you," he said, "and I will speak for the children. Not because you deserve it, but because they do." Jaime felt something twist in his chest. Relief, sharp as pain. "Thank you," he said. Ned's mouth tightened. "Do not thank me," he said again, echoing the high septon. I do not do this for you. Jaime bowed his head once, then turned to leave. As he stepped out of the godswood, the torchlight caught his white cloak and made it glow. For a heartbeat he looked like a ghost, haunting the Red Keep with the sins it tried so hard to hide. And somewhere in the castle, Jaime could feel Cersei's anger stirring like wild fire waiting for a spark. The throne room had always felt like a mouth lined with blades, hungry for kneeling men and whispered deals, ready to swallow pride and spit out bones. Jaime had walked its length 1,000 times, head high, cloak bright, pretending he did not feel the teeth around him. Today, the teeth felt closer. The court was full. Lords and ladies gathered in finery that glittered under torchlight. Guards lined the walls, spears upright. The small council sat near the front, their faces a mosaic of interest, boredom, calculation. The high Septons stood off to one side, crystal crown catching the firelight. Septas hovered behind him like pale ghosts. At the far end, towering over all, the Iron Throne rose in jagged glory. Robert Baratheon sprawled on it like a man trying to make a bed of knives comfortable. His crown sat crooked on his head. He looked amused, impatient, half-bored until he saw Jaime. Cersei stood beside Robert, dressed in green and gold, her hair a bright lion's mane. Her face was calm, beautiful, and utterly unreadable. Jaime could not tell whether she was furious or confident. He only knew that she was watching him like a hawk watches prey. Eddard Stark stood near the throne, posture stiff, face carved from winter. His eyes were fixed on Jaime with a steady, grim focus. Ser Barristan Selmy stood in his white cloak, hands clasped, gaze stern. The King's Guard were there too. Ser Meryn Trant, Ser Boros Blunt, Ser Aaron Santagar, men Jaime had trained beside, men who had watched him with envy or disdain. Today their eyes held unease. Varys's hands were folded, his smile gentle as ever. Littlefinger leaned casually, grin faint, eyes bright. Grand Maester Pycelle blinked owlishly, pretending to be confused. Renly watched with open curiosity, a boy at a feast. Jaime walked forward alone. He felt every eye on him, the weight of 1,000 judgments. The white cloak on his shoulders suddenly felt like it belonged to a different man, one who had believed in honor. When he reached the center of the hall, he stopped and turned to face the throne. He did not kneel. He did not bow deeply. He simply stood, spine straight, hands empty. Robert raised an eyebrow. "Jaime," he called, voice booming in the great hall. "What is this? Your brother tells me you've got some confession for the gods and men." A ripple of whispers. Jaime felt Cersei's gaze sharpen. He drew in a breath. The air tasted like smoke and steel. "Your Grace," Jaime said, and his voice carried farther than he expected. "I have committed treason." The throne room went silent so abruptly it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Robert's smile faltered. "Treason," he repeated, as if the word were a jest he didn't understand. Jaime continued, because if he stopped he would never start again. "I have broken my oaths. I have lied to my king. I have sinned against the gods." He paused, just long enough to feel the room tilt. "And I have tried to murder a child." A hiss went through the crowd like wind through reeds. Jaime felt Ned Stark's focus sharpen, felt Barristan's jaw tighten, felt Varys's attention intensify into something like hunger. Cersei did not move. Her face remained calm, but her eyes burned. Robert's expression shifted, confusion hardening into anger. "What child?" he demanded. "Brandon Stark," Jaime said. The words struck the hall like a thrown stone. Eddard Stark's face went colder, if that was possible. Some lords gasped. Others whispered furiously. Robert's hands tightened on the throne's arms, knuckles whitening. "You?" Robert began, voice low and dangerous. "You pushed the boy?" Jaime's throat tightened. He nodded once. "Yes." For a heartbeat, Robert looked as if he might leap from the throne and crush Jaime's skull with his bare hands. The king's face flushed, his eyes blazing. "Why?" Robert snarled. Jaime's gaze flicked, briefly to Cersei. She stared back, daring him. Jaime looked away. Because he saw something, Jaime said. Something I could not allow him to speak. Robert's voice rose. Speak, he roared. What did he see? Jaime felt the entire realm balanced on the edge of his tongue. He tasted fear. He tasted truth. He reached up and unclasped the golden lion clasp at his shoulder. The white cloak loosened, slipping slightly, as if it too wanted to fall away. I lay with Queen Cersei Lannister, Jaime said, voice steady. Not once, not in madness. I have lain with her for years. The hall erupted in noise. Gasps, shouts, prayers, curses. The High Septon's face tightened in horror. Septas whispered frantic invocations. Lords surged forward, murmuring like a storm. Ser Barristan's eyes widened, stunned. Cersei's face finally cracked. Only slightly, a flicker of fury and disbelief. She took a step forward. This is a lie, she said sharply, her voice cutting through the noise like a whip. He is drunk or mad, or... Jaime did not look at her. He looked at Robert. Robert's face had gone strangely pale beneath the flush. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a man trying to breathe underwater. You, he rasped, staring at Cersei, then at Jaime. You! Jaime kept going because hesitation was death. Joffrey Baratheon is not your son, he said. Myrcella Baratheon is not your daughter. Tommen Baratheon is not your son. He swallowed, the words slicing his throat. They are mine. The Iron Throne room became chaos. Someone shouted for guards. Someone else screamed blasphemy. A lady fainted, collapsing into her husband's arms. Men surged, hands on sword hilts. The Kingsguard shifted uncertainly, torn between duty and shock. Robert rose, slow and terrible, like a storm rising from the sea. The Iron Throne's blades caught his cloak as he stood, tearing it slightly, but he did not notice. His eyes were locked on Cersei. Is it true? Robert demanded, voice shaking with fury. Is it true? Cersei's face was rigid, her eyes glittering. No, she said, and there was teal in it. No, of course not. He lies to spite me. He lies because... Robert turned back to Jaime, his eyes wild. You would dare, he snarled. You would dare speak this in my hall? Jaime met his gaze. Yes, he said, because it is true. Robert took a step toward Jaime. Ser Barristan moved instinctively, as if to protect the king, but Robert shoved past him. The king's hand went to his belt, fingers curling around the hilt of his sword. Eddard Stark stepped forward suddenly, voice loud and commanding. Your Grace, Ned called. Robert did not look away from Jaime. Do not speak, he growled. Ned's voice was hard. If you kill him now, Ned said, in your fury, you will ignite war before you have even decided what justice is. Robert's head snapped toward Ned, eyes blazing. Justice, he roared. Justice is his head on a spike. The High Septon raised a trembling hand. Your Grace. Robert ignored him. He stepped closer to Jaime, sword half-drawn. Jaime stood still. He did not reach for his own blade. He did not flinch. He watched Robert's rage like a man watching a wave about to crush him. I will accept any punishment, Jaime said loudly, forcing his voice above the chaos. Death, torture, exile. I do not ask mercy for myself. Robert's sword paused, half out. His eyes narrowed. Then why speak at all? Robert hissed. Why not keep your filthy secret and live? Jaime's voice softened. Because I pushed a child, he said. Because I have lived behind lies for too long. Because the realm deserves truth, even if it hates it. He took a breath. And because the children, he swallowed hard. The children did not choose this. Cersei's eyes flashed, fury and fear twisting together. Do not speak of them, she snapped. Jaime finally looked at her then. I'm speaking for them, he said quietly. Robert's face contorted. He looked as if he might vomit. He turned his gaze back to Cersei. "Is it true?" he demanded again, voice cracking. Cersei's jaw tightened. For a heartbeat, Jaime thought she might lie to the end. Then her eyes flicked, just once, toward Robert's sword. "I am your queen," she said coldly. "You will not accuse me on the word of a traitor." Robert's face twisted into something savage. "Traitor," he echoed, and then he laughed. One harsh, broken sound. A traitor in a white cloak, confessing treason and demanding to be believed. Jaime bowed his head slightly. "Believe what you will," he said, "but judge me, publicly, so the realm sees the truth punished." Robert's hand tightened on his sword. His breath came heavy. The hall held its breath with him. Then, slowly, Robert shoved his sword back into its sheath. The sound of steel sliding home was loud as thunder in the silence that followed. "Seize him," Robert said, voice low and shaking. "Strip him, chain him. And if any man here speaks a word of this outside my walls before I decide." His eyes swept the hall like a whip. "I'll have their tongue." Guards surged forward, hesitant. Jaime held still as hands grabbed his arms. His white cloak slipped further, nearly falling. He felt fingers fumble at his clasp. As the guards dragged him away, Jaime looked once more toward Ned Stark. Ned's face was grim, but his eyes held something like fierce resolve. Jaime did not know if that resolve would save anyone. Behind him, Robert's roar shook the hall. "Get her out!" he bellowed, pointing at Cersei. "Get the queen out of my sight!" Cersei's face was a mask of ice. As she was seized by guards, her eyes locked on Jaime. In them, Jaime saw hatred bright as wildfire, and he knew the realm had just been set alight. Chains were honest. They did not pretend to be cloth. They did not claim purity. They bit into skin and reminded a man of every step he took. Jaime Lannister learned their weight quickly as he was led through the Red Keep's lower corridors, torchlight flickering across damp stone. He had been struck, once hard, by a guard too eager to prove loyalty. His lip was split, and dried blood pulled tight when he tried to breathe through his mouth. His hands ached where irons pinched his wrists. But beneath the pain, a strange calm settled. The confession was done. The truth was loose in the world now, and no amount of denial could fully cage it again. In a small chamber lit by a single torch, Robert Baratheon stood like a storm given flesh. His face was blotched with rage, his eyes bloodshot. Ned Stark stood beside him, grim, while Ser Barristan hovered near the door, his honor warring with the king's fury. Cersei was not there. Jaime felt her absence like a missing limb. Robert stared at Jaime with a hatred so raw it made the air feel thick. "Look at you," Robert rasped. "Look at you in chains, and you still stand proud." Jaime lifted his head. "I'm not proud," he said quietly. "I'm finished pretending." Robert's laugh was bitter. "Pretending," he spat. "You fucked my wife. You put bastards in my line. You pushed a boy from a tower. And now you talk of pretending." Jaime met his gaze. "Yes," he said, "all of that, and I will pay." Robert stepped forward suddenly, so close Jaime could smell wine and fury on his breath. "I should kill you," Robert growled. "Yes," Jaime said. Robert's eyes narrowed, thrown off balance by agreement. "You think you can make yourself noble with confession?" Robert hissed. "You think you can control the story like you controlled your sword in my hall?" Jaime's voice was steady. "I'm not trying to be noble," he said. "I'm trying to stop the realm from drowning in lies." Robert's face contorted. "The realm will drown in blood because of you," he snarled. Ned Stark's voice cut in cold and firm. "Your Grace," Ned said, "if you execute him, Lord Tywin Lannister will come. He will come with gold and fire, and every lord who fears him will hesitate." Ned's gaze held Robert's. "If you send him to the wall, you punish the guilty without giving Tywin a martyr." Robert's jaw clenched. "The wall," he repeated, voice thick with contempt. "You would send him to live? After what he's done?" Ned's eyes did not flinch. "You would send him to die," Ned said. "The wall is not mercy. It is exile and cold and duty until death. Robert's eyes flicked back to Jaime. Is that what you wanted? Robert demanded. To hide behind black cloaks and call yourself punished? Jaime swallowed. I wanted exile, he said. Yes. Robert's lips curled. Of course you did, he sneered. Always the coward's way. Jaime's voice grew harder. Cowardice would have been silence, he said. Cowardice would have been letting the truth come out through knives when it suited others. Robert's face twisted. His hand flexed as if he wanted to hit Jaime again. And what of my children? Robert spat. What of the bastards you dared name mine? Ned's voice softened, only slightly. They are children, he said. Whatever their parentage, they are innocent. Robert's eyes flashed. Innocent, he roared. They are living insults. Jaime's chains rattled as he shifted. They didn't choose it, he said, and his voice was almost a plea despite himself. Do not punish them for my sin. Robert stared at him with eyes like a man on the edge of madness. For a heartbeat, Jaime thought Robert might actually draw his sword and end him anyway. Consequences be damned. Then Robert's shoulders slumped, just slightly, as if the fight had drained out of him and left only exhaustion. He looked older in that moment, less a conqueror and more a man trapped in a crown. Get him out, Robert said hoarsely. Get him out of my sight. Jaime held Robert's gaze. Your Grace, he said quietly. Robert's eyes narrowed. What? Jaime's throat tightened. I killed Ares, he said, because he would have burned this city. I'm confessing now because my silence would burn it anyway. He paused. I don't ask forgiveness, only judgment. Robert's mouth twisted. You'll have it, he said coldly. You'll go to the wall. You'll take the black. You'll freeze and bleed and die far from everything you thought you owned. Jaime bowed his head slightly. As you command, he said. Robert's voice rose, harsh. And if Tywin Lannister so much as breathes the word war, I'll drown Casterly Rock in blood, he snarled. I'll tear your family down stone by stone. Jaime did not doubt it. He wondered dimly if Robert could truly do it, or if the threat was the last shard of pride Robert had left. Ned Stark stepped closer to Jaime as guards moved to drag him away. Ned's voice dropped, low enough only Jaime could hear. I will speak for the children, Ned said, grim. I will do what I can. Jaime's chest tightened. Thank you, he murmured. Ned's eyes were hard. Do not thank me, he said, and do not mistake duty for kindness. Jaime nodded. That was enough. They led him through the keep and out into the courtyard. The sky was paling with dawn, the city waking in damp gray light. The gates loomed ahead, and beyond them the King's Road stretched north like a sentence written in mud and frost. A small train of guards waited with horses. Ser Barristan Selmy stood near the steps, his face drawn, eyes troubled. Jaime paused as he passed Barristan. The old knight's gaze met his, and Jaime saw something there that made his throat tighten. Disappointment, yes, but also sorrow, as if Barristan mourned the boy Jaime had once been. You were meant to be the best of us, Barristan said quietly. Jaime swallowed. I was, he said softly. Once. Barristan's jaw tightened. May the wall teach you what the white cloak did not, he said and turned. Away. Jaime was pushed toward a horse. He climbed awkwardly with chains biting into his wrists. The saddle felt strange without armor, without the weight of a sword at his side. He felt stripped not only of status but of identity. As they rode out through the gates, the city's smell hit him again. Smoke, sweat, fish, life. People turned to stare at the chained man in torn linen, his golden hair messy, his face bruised. Some spat, some whispered, some only watched wide-eyed, as if seeing a story walk past. Above, on a balcony, Robert stood silhouetted against the pale sky. He watched Jaime go with a face like thunder, his jaw clenched, his hands gripping stone. Cersei was nowhere to be seen, but Jaime felt her presence anyway, like a blade pressed to the back of his neck. The gates closed behind him with a heavy groan. Jaime rode north into the morning, the road damp beneath hooves, the world stretching wide and uncertain. He did not know what war he had ignited. He did not know whether the children would live. He did not know if Cersei would destroy him from afar with lies sharper than swords. He only knew that the truth was no longer trapped inside him. And as the first weak sunlight crept over the horizon, turning the stones of King's Landing pale and hard, Jaime Lannister lifted his face to the cold air and breathed as if for the first time in his life. The world outside King's Landing felt wider than a prison and colder than mercy. The gates fell behind them with a finality Jaime could taste. Stone swallowed the echoes of the city, its shouting, its stink, its relentless life, and the King's Road opened like a blade laid flat across the land. Mud clung to hooves. Frost shone in pale patches where the sun had not yet bothered to rise. Jaime rode with his wrists chained, the irons linked by a short length that forced his hands close together like a penitence. Every jolt of the horse tugged at the metal and reminded him that a confession did not unmake consequence. His split lip stung whenever he breathed through his mouth. Dried blood cracked and pulled. He welcomed the bite. Pain was simpler than memory. The escort did not speak to him unless they had to. Men in dark cloaks and mail, spears upright, eyes forward. Their captain, Ser Giles Rosby's cousin by look, though not by name, kept his horse half a length ahead of Jaime's, as if afraid the Kingslayer might turn and bite. Jaime found the fear almost funny. There were no swords at his belt, no white cloak on his shoulders now, only road dust linen and a bruised face that looked less like a legend and more like a man who had fallen off a horse. At the gate, he had seen Eddard Stark standing in the archway, gray cloak drawn tight, eyes fixed on Jaime like iron nails. Ned had not spoken. He had only watched, and in that watch Jaime felt something heavier than hate. Duty. Ned would do what he could for the children because that was what Ned did. He would also do what he could to keep the realm from shattering, even if it meant holding the pieces with bleeding hands. Jaime turned his gaze forward, because looking back was a way to invite weakness. The small folk along the road stared as they passed. Men with cracked hands and tired eyes, women holding infants tight, children with mud on their cheeks. Some spat, some crossed themselves. A few only watched with a kind of hungry fascination, as if they expected Jaime to sprout horns any moment. One boy ran alongside for a stretch, barefoot in the muck, and shouted, "Kingsla!" until his mother slapped him hard and dragged him back. Jaime did not flinch at the insult. It had lived with him so long it felt like a second name. A mile from the city, they passed a wooden post where fresh parchment had been nailed, the ink still dark. Jaime's escort slowed only enough for him to see the bold strokes. The king's decree, the queen confined, the line of succession under review, the hand to speak with the voice of the crown. All wrapped in careful words meant to keep the city from rioting and the lords from moving too quickly. Jaime read it once, then looked away. He wondered where Cersei was at that moment. Behind velvet curtains, behind iron bars, behind smiles bought with whispers. He wondered if she had already decided which man would bleed first for this humiliation. Cersei did not accept cages. She only learned how to decorate them until they looked like thrones. The wind picked up and carried the faint scent of the sea. Jaime tasted salt and thought of the wall, far to the north, where salt turned to ice and men turned to ghosts. He tried to imagine himself there, in black wool, eating thin stew, sleeping on hard straw, waking to horns in the night. He tried to imagine a life where no one asked him to be golden. The chains clinked softly as his horse stumbled over a rut. Jaime steadied himself and did not look down. He had chosen exile. Now exile chose him back 1 cold mile at a time. By midday the road had shaken the stiffness into Jaime's bones and replaced it with a deeper ache, the kind that lived in joints and made a man feel older than his years. The escort stopped at a village that clung to the riverbank like a desperate thought. Smoke rose from crooked chimneys. Chickens pecked in mud. A thin Sept leaned slightly to one side, its star above the door weathered by rain. The guards watered their horses and filled skins. speaking in low voices that kept drifting to silence whenever Jaime looked their way. He sat in the saddle with his hands chained, watching villagers pretend not to watch him. They stole glances, then dropped their eyes. The Kingslayer brought trouble even when he was bound. A Septon approached, brown robe flapping, his cheeks red from wind. He held a small token carved with the 7-pointed star, the wood polished by years of anxious fingers. His eyes flicked over Jaime's bruises and irons. "Sire?" the Septon said cautiously, as if the title might burn his tongue. Jaime's mouth twitched. "Not anymore," the Septon swallowed. "They say you confessed," he murmured. "They say you spoke sins in the king's own hall." "They say a lot," Jaime replied. A small face peered from behind a woman's skirt. A little girl, no older than 5, hair tangled, nose red. She stared at Jaime with wide eyes as if trying to see the monster beneath the bruises. Jaime met her gaze, and something in his chest tightened. The Septon held out the token. "The Mother's Mercy," he said, voice softer. "For your road." Jaime stared at it. He could have laughed. Mercy from carved wood, offered to a man who had pushed a child from a tower. Mercy felt like an insult and a bomb all at once. Before he could answer, a shout rose near the firewood stack. 2 of the escort's rougher men had a farmer shoved up against a post, the farmer's arms pinned, his face twisted in fear. "He's hiding coin," one soldier snarled, shaking the man by his collar. "Thinks the king's men don't deserve payment? I've got nothing," the farmer pleaded. "Nothing but winter stores." The soldier backhanded him hard. The farmer crumpled, cheek hitting mud. The little girl behind the skirt whimpered and pressed closer to her mother. Jaime felt the old instinct rise. Intervene, command, punish. Then the chains reminded him he was no one now. A prisoner, a story. Still, his voice carried when he used it. "Stop," Jaime said. The soldier froze, turning, eyes narrowing at the sound. He smirked when he saw Jaime's chains. "And what will you do?" the man asked. "Bite me, Kingslayer?" Jaime's jaw tightened. "He's a farmer," he said. "He's not your enemy," the soldier snorted. "Everyone's our enemy when the road is long." Jaime shifted in the saddle, ignoring the bite of iron. "If you take his winter stores," he said, "you'll have a corpse by moon's turn, and his children with him. Is that what you want on your conscience?" The soldier spat. "Conscience," he mocked. "From you." Jaime flinched as if struck, but he held his gaze steady. "Yes," he said quietly. "From me." The captain rode over, face tight. "Enough," the captain snapped at his men. He glanced at Jaime, then at the farmer. "Let him be." The soldier hesitated, then shoved the farmer away with a curse. The farmer scrambled back, clutching his ribs, eyes wide with disbelief. The mother pulled the little girl close and turned away as if afraid even gratitude might invite more trouble. The Septon's token still hovered in the air between them. Jaime looked at it again. The Mother's Mercy. He thought of Cersei's mercy, none. Of Tywin's mercy, less. Of Robert's mercy. Anger delayed, not softened. He nodded once. "Keep it," Jaime said to the Septon, voice rough. "Give it to the farmer's child instead." The Septon blinked, then bowed his head slowly. "As you wish," he whispered. As the escort mounted up again, the little girl stared at Jaime a final time. This time her gaze held something different, confusion, perhaps, or the first fragile seed of realizing monsters could speak like men. Jaime looked away before the seed could sprout into anything like hope. Hope was dangerous on a long road north. In King's Landing, the air inside the Red Keep tasted of candle wax and restrained violence. Robert Baratheon paced like a caged bull, boots thudding against stone, his fur-lined cloak swinging with every furious turn. His face was blotched with anger, veins thick at his temples. He looked ready to break something simply to hear it crack. Cersei Lannister sat beneath guard, not in chains, but might as well have been. Her spine was straight, her chin lifted, her green eyes cold enough to freeze a flame. She wore her confinement like a crown, refusing to give Robert the satisfaction of seeing fear. Joffrey Baratheon stood near her chair, fine cloth clinging to his thin shoulders, his mouth set in a sneer that tried and failed to look like courage. Myrcella hovered behind, pale and trembling, and Tommen clutched her hand with both of his, eyes wide and watery, as if the room itself might bite him. Eddard Stark stood between king and queen like a wall placed to keep a flood from swallowing the castle. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. His steadiness was its own command. "He's lying," Cersei said again, voice smooth. "He's always been a creature of impulse. He's broken before. He would break again to spite me." Robert stopped pacing and pointed at her, shaking. "Do you think I'm a fool?" he roared. "Do you think I cannot see the truth when it spits in my face?" Cersei's eyes narrowed. "I think you see what you want," she said. "You always have." Joffrey's voice cut in, sharp and petulant. "Father," he said, stepping forward, "this is madness. You will not disgrace Mother with—" Robert's gaze snapped to him like a whip. "Do not call me father," Robert snarled, and the words hit the boy like a slap. Joffrey flinched, then recovered with a furious glare that was too much Cersei and not enough Robert. "You cannot," he began. Ned Stark's voice cut cleanly through the rising storm. "Your Grace," he said firmly, "the boy is innocent of his birth." Robert's laugh was harsh. "Innocent?" he spat. "They are living insults." Myrcella made a small, choked sound. Tommen's lip trembled. Cersei's gaze flicked to her children then, and for the first time something human cracked through the ice. Only a hair's breadth, only in the way her hand tightened on the chair's arm. Then it was gone again. "What do you want, Robert?" she asked quietly. "Do you want my tears? My begging? You never wanted me. You wanted Lyanna Stark. And when she died you took me because I was the nearest replacement with the right name." Robert's face twisted as if struck. For a moment, pain flashed beneath the rage, raw and exposed. Then it hardened again into fury. "Do not speak her name," he growled. Cersei's voice remained calm. "You've been drunk for half our marriage," she said. "Now you want to be righteous." Robert took a step toward her, fists clenched. The guards stiffened. Ned's hand slid, subtly, toward ice. Varys watched with soft eyes that missed nothing. Littlefinger's smile hovered like a thin blade, delighted and cautious in equal measure. Robert stopped short of striking her, not because he lacked the urge, but because the children were watching. He stared at Tommen's trembling mouth, at Myrcella's pale face, at Joffrey's burning eyes. "I should kill you," Robert said hoarsely to Cersei. Cersei's smile was cold. "Then do it," she said, "and prove to the realm what sort of king you truly are." Robert turned away as if he could not bear the sight of them. He looked at Ned. "What would you have me do?" he snarled, as if the question itself was an insult. Ned did not flinch. "Protect the realm," Ned said. "Protect the innocent. Punish the guilty with judgment, not fury." Robert's laugh was a broken sound. "The guilty," he echoed. His gaze flicked to Cersei. "And him? The bastard?" He jerked his head toward Joffrey. Ned's voice did not waver. "He is a boy," Ned said. "Whatever he becomes later will be shaped by what you do now." Robert's eyes burned. "He becomes nothing," Robert said. "He becomes no one. I will not have a Lannister whelp on my throne." Joffrey's face flushed. "I am the crown prince," he snapped, voice cracking. "I am." Robert's roar shook the tapestries. "You are nothing of mine." Silence slammed down. Tommen whimpered. Myrcella's tears spilled quietly. Joffrey stood rigid, eyes shining with hate and humiliation so intense it looked like fever. Cersei's gaze sharpened to a deadly point. "You will regret those words," she whispered. Robert turned away as if he could not bear the sight of them. He looked at Ned again, voice lower, rougher. "Send ravens," he said, "to Stannis, to Tywin, to every lord who matters. Let them know the truth before the Lannisters twist it." His mouth curled. And keep the children. His jaw tightened. Keep them where I can see them. Ned nodded once. As you command. Robert's gaze flicked back to Cersei, and the hatred there was so heavy it seemed to bend the air. You will stand trial, Robert said, before gods and men. Cersei's smile did not reach her eyes. And you will lose, she murmured, more promise than fear. As the guards moved in closer, Robert strode out of the chamber like a man fleeing his own life. Ned remained, shoulders heavy, eyes on the children. In the corner, Littlefinger leaned toward Varys, his voice too soft for anyone else to hear. The realm is cracking, he murmured, delighted. Varys's smile stayed gentle. The realm has always been cracked, he whispered back. It only takes the right pressure to make the break visible. Cersei's confinement was lined with silk, because Robert did not yet understand that silk could be a noose. The chamber they kept her in was not a dungeon. It had a feather bed and tapestries and a hearth. It also had iron on the windows, and 2 gold cloaks outside the door who did not smile when she spoke. The bars threw shadows across the floor like the ribs of a cage. Cersei stood at a table strewn with parchment and broken wax. She had demanded ravens. They had allowed her ink and quill, because the court still clung to the fragile pretense that the queen was merely confined, not imprisoned. That pretense would end the moment Robert's wrath solidified into policy. Her fingers were stained red from sealing wax. The color suited her mood. When the door opened, she did not turn. She knew the sound of footfalls. These were light, confident, too pleased with themselves. Your Grace, Peter Baelish said softly, as if they were at a feast instead of a cage. Cersei's mouth curled. Littlefinger, she said, and the name dripped contempt. Have you come to gloat? Littlefinger's smile was polite. I have come to offer sympathy, he said, as if sympathy were a coin he could spend. It must be difficult to be at the mercy of men who suddenly remember they have morals. Cersei turned then, slow, her green eyes sharp as glass. Careful, she said. I am still the queen. Littlefinger's grin did not falter. For the moment, he murmured. Moments are so precious. Cersei stepped closer until she could see her own reflection in his eyes. What do you want? She asked. Littlefinger spread his hands. To help, he said. The realm is trembling. The lords are already choosing sides in their hearts, even if their mouths still praise Robert. His eyes flicked to the ravens. Tywin Lannister will not sit quietly while his daughter is caged. Cersei's gaze sharpened at the mention of her father. No, she said. He won't. Littlefinger's voice softened, conspiratorial. War can be inconvenient, he said. Unpredictable, expensive, dangerous. He leaned in slightly. There are other ways to change a king's mind. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Say it, she commanded. Littlefinger smiled, the edge of a knife in it. A king can die, he said lightly. Kings do sometimes. Hunting accidents, a sudden fever, an unfortunate fall. He tilted his head. The realm mourns, and then it moves on. Cersei's face remained still, but something inside her shifted, calculation clicking into place like a lock turning. You speak treason, she said. I speak possibility, Littlefinger replied. Possibility is the only thing that matters. Cersei looked back at the barred windows, at the cage shadows on the floor. Robert is strong, she said. Stupid, but strong. Littlefinger's smile widened. Strong men die too, he said. Sometimes the stronger they are, the easier they fall when they believe themselves untouchable. Cersei's fingers tightened on the edge of the table. And what do you gain? She asked. Littlefinger placed a hand to his chest as if wounded. Only the continued stability of the realm, he said, lying as smoothly as breathing. And perhaps your gratitude. Cersei's laugh was low. You want coin, she said. You want power. Littlefinger's eyes gleamed. I want what everyone wants, he said. To be safe when the knives come out. Cersei stared at him for a long moment. Then she moved back to the ravens. She picked up a parchment and read the words she had already written, her script sharp and elegant. Tywin, father, come. She set it down without sealing it. Jaime is gone, Cersei said softly, and the softness was not grief. It was fury. He thinks he can ruin me by confessing. He thinks he can be noble. He thinks... Her mouth tightened. He thinks I cannot survive without him. Littlefinger's smile was almost tender. You survive, he said. You thrive. Cersei's eyes hardened. Robert will put me on trial, she said. He will strip my children. She spat the word like venom. My children. Littlefinger's voice dropped. Then you must move first, he murmured. Cersei reached for the wax again. The red melted in the candle flame, pooling like blood. She pressed her seal into it. Lion and script, the mark of House Lannister. When she lifted the parchment, the seal shone wetly. I will not be caged, Cersei whispered. Littlefinger bowed his head slightly, a courtly gesture that hid satisfaction. No, he agreed. You won't. As he slipped back toward the door, Cersei held the sealed raven letter in her hand like a dagger. Outside, the gold cloaks shifted, unaware that the silk-lined cage had just become a furnace. Casterly Rock did not react to news the way other castles did. There was no shouting in corridors, no panicked running, no sudden flurry of orders thrown like nets. The rock absorbed information the way stone absorbed rain. Slowly, silently, and with an inevitability that made men uneasy. Tywin Lannister stood before a map table where carved markers formed neat lines of men and horse. Torchlight painted his crimson cloak in shifting fire. His face was calm, a mask carved from discipline, but the silence around him felt sharp enough to cut. A maester held the raven scroll with both hands, as if afraid it might burst into flame. The broken seal lay on the table like a tooth. Kevan Lannister stood beside his brother, mouth tight, eyes cautious. Around them, bannermen waited, lords of the West, men who had ridden under Tywin's banner before and knew what his calm meant. The maester cleared his throat. The message says, I can read, Tywin said, voice low and flat. The maester swallowed and fell silent. Tywin read the parchment once, then again. Each word was a blow delivered with elegant script. Confession, treason, incest, imprisonment, trial, exile. Jaime to the wall, Cersei confined. The children questioned. When Tywin lifted his gaze, the hall felt colder. My daughter, Tywin said softly, and the softness was more terrifying than shouting. Kevin's voice was careful. Robert Baratheon is enraged, he said. But rage can cool. We may yet. Rage cools, Tywin agreed. Humiliation does not. He placed the parchment down with precise control, as if slamming it might betray emotion. His fingers rested on the map table, near the markers for King's Landing. They have caged my daughter, Tywin said. They have stripped my son of white and honor and sent him to die in ice. His mouth tightened barely, and they have dared to whisper that Lannister blood is not fit for a throne. One bannerman, Lord Crakehall, broad and eager, shifted. Give the word, he rumbled. We'll march. We'll burn the Riverlands again if we must. Tywin's gaze flicked to him, cold. We will not burn again like drunken raiders, Tywin said. We will act with purpose. Kevan leaned in slightly. What purpose? He asked. Tywin's eyes did not leave the map. Control, he said simply. Leverage. His gaze moved across the pieces. They will try to keep the children close as wards. They will try to use them as shields against me. Kevan's jaw tightened. And if they execute Cersei? Tywin's eyes lifted, and for a heartbeat the calm cracked just enough to show something lethal beneath. Then the realm will learn what it means to take what is mine, he said. The hall went very still. Tywin reached for a carved marker and moved it a single inch. The motion was small, but it felt like an army marching. Send ravens, Tywin said, to every bannerman. Call the West. Kevan's brows rose. Open war, he asked, cautious. Tywin's voice remained even. Open preparedness, he corrected. If Robert wishes to posture, let him see steel behind our gold. He turned his gaze to the maester. Send a message to King Robert, Tywin said. Tell him that my daughter will be released into my custody to stand trial at Casterly Rock, under the eyes of the Faith and the West. Kevin's mouth tightened. Robert will refuse. Tywin's eyes gleamed. Then he will learn negotiation, Tywin said. Or he will learn pain. A bannerman shifted nervously. And Ser Jaime? Someone asked. The name hung in the air like a ghost. Tywin's face did not move. Jaime has chosen exile, Tywin said, and the words were iron. If he intends to freeze in black wool, he will do so. His gaze sharpened slightly. But do not mistake my son's confession for my submission. Kevin studied his brother. Jaime's confession, Kevin began. Tywin's hand lifted, cutting him off. Jaime's confession was either madness or betrayal, Tywin said quietly. Either way, the consequence is the same. The realm believes it can strike House Lannister and live. He leaned forward over the map table. We will teach them otherwise, Tywin said. Outside the rock, waves smashed against stone like endless war drums. The sound seeped into the hall through cracks and corridors, a reminder that even the sea could not wear the rock down quickly. And Tywin Lannister did not intend to be worn down at all. If the throne room was a mouth, the small council chamber was a stomach, where decisions were digested into policy and spat back out as law. Eddard Stark sat at the head of the table, the hands pinned heavy against his chest. He looked like a man forced to wear southern air like armor. Scrolls lay spread before him, each one another problem that wanted blood. Robert Baratheon sat to Ned's right, not on his throne, but slumped in a chair like a man who had forgotten how to sit without knives beneath him. A tankard sat near his hand, untouched. That alone told Tyrion Lannister the king's anger had reached a place deeper than habit. Tyrion stood near the table, hands open, his posture careful, respectful, but not submissive. He had learned long ago that bending too far only gave men room to step on you. Your Grace, Tyrion said, voice smooth. I am not here to excuse what was done. I am here to prevent what will follow if the realm chooses to be stupid. Robert's eyes narrowed. The realm is always stupid, he growled. Exactly, Tyrion replied, which is why someone must be clever in its place. Renly Baratheon smothered a grin behind his hand. Littlefinger's smile sharpened. Amused, Varys watched Tyrion as if watching a musician tune a string. Ned's voice was cold. Tywin Lannister is calling his banners, he said. Pycelle sniffed. A lord may call banners for war, Robert snapped, cutting him off. His hands clenched on the chair arms. Let him come. Tyrion's gaze held steady. If Lord Tywin marches, he said quietly, he will not march only on King's Landing. He will march on the Riverlands, on the north, on any lord who hesitates. Tyrion's voice sharpened slightly. And the first bodies to float in the trident will be farmers and children who have never heard the word succession spoken in a hall. Robert's jaw clenched. You speak like you care for them, he sneered. Tyrion's smile was thin. I care for stability, he said, and for not being stabbed in my sleep because the realm collapses into chaos. Ned's eyes did not soften. Your sister must stand trial, he said. Tyrion inclined his head. Yes, he agreed, but trial is not slaughter. Robert's gaze burned. You want me to spare her, he said, voice low and deadly. I want you to be wise, Tyrion replied. If you execute Queen Cersei Lannister now, Lord Tywin will burn half the realm in grief and pride. If you keep her alive, confined, judged, punished, then Tywin must choose between his pride and his blood. Littlefinger's voice drifted in, light as a feather. And Tywin always chooses blood, he said, smiling. Tyrion looked at him sharply. Tywin chooses control, Tyrion corrected. Blood is merely the excuse. Varys's soft voice followed. A living queen is leverage, he murmured. Robert's nostrils flared. Leverage, he spat. Like I'm some merchant bargaining for a pig. Ned's gaze held him. You are a king bargaining for a realm, Ned said firmly. Robert looked away, jaw working. For a moment, something like exhaustion showed beneath the rage. Tyrion stepped closer, lowering his voice. And the children, Tyrion said. Whatever you feel toward them, they are valuable. He paused, careful. Not as weapons, as symbols. The realm will watch what you do with them and decide whether you are just or merely vengeful. Robert's eyes flicked back, sharp. They are not mine, he said, voice thick. No, Tyrion agreed softly. But the realm believed they were. That belief does not die in a day. Renly shifted, expression sobering. Stannis will demand the crown, he said. And half the lords will balk because they hate him. Robert's mouth twisted. Let them hate him, he growled. He's lawful. Ned's voice stayed steady. Then declare him heir, he said. Robert stared at the table, at ink and seals, at the mess his life had become. Then he nodded once, sharp. Send ravens, he said, to Stannis. He comes to court. Pycelle fumbled with ink, muttering. Tyrion exhaled slowly, one piece placed. And Jaime, Robert said suddenly, eyes hardening again. He goes to the wall. I want him gone. Tyrion's throat tightened, but he nodded. He is already on the road, he said. Robert's face twisted. Good, he growled. Let the cold take him. Ned's voice cut in, quiet but firm. He confessed, Ned said. He did what few men would. Robert's gaze snapped to him. Do not defend him, Robert snarled. Ned did not flinch. I do not defend his crimes, Ned said. I defend justice. Robert's chest rose and fell. For a heartbeat, the room held a dangerous silence. Then Robert looked away again, voice rough. Do what you must, Ned, he muttered. Just keep them from laughing at me. Tyrion watched the king and saw not a conqueror but a wounded animal, lashing out at anything near. He understood then that the realm's greatest danger was not Tywin's armies or Cersei's plotting. It was Robert's pride, bleeding in public. Tyrion bowed his head slightly. We will keep the realm from burning, he said, though he did not know if it was promise or prayer. The Riverlands did not announce danger with banners. It announced it with silence. The trees thickened along the road, branches knitting overhead until the sky became a strip of gray. The air smelled damp, sweet with rot and river water. Jaime's escort rode tighter formation here, spears angled, eyes scanning shadow. Jaime felt the tension before it broke. Years of battle made his skin notice what others missed. Birds gone quiet, wind shifting, the wrong kind of stillness. Then the first arrow thudded into a tree, quivering inches from a guard's head. Shouts exploded, horses screamed, men grabbed for weapons. Hooded figures surged from the undergrowth like ink spilled into water. Outlaws with spears, bows, knives. They moved desperate and bold, not disciplined like soldiers. Hunger drove them more than strategy. Gold, one shouted. Drop it and live. The escort captain bellowed orders. Spear points met the rush.
Stilrang.
A horse reared and nearly threw its rider. Jaime's own horse skittered sideways, chain tugging painfully at his wrists as he fought to keep balance. A young outlaw, barely more than a boy, face smeared with dirt, lunged toward the escort squire, blade raised. The squire froze, eyes huge, too young to die on a muddy road because a king's marriage had rotted. Jaime acted before thought could argue. He leaned hard in the saddle, kicked his horse forward, and slammed shoulder first into the boy. The impact knocked the outlaw off his feet. Jaime's chains clinked, pain flaring at his wrists, but he kept his seat and wheeled the horse around. The outlaw scrambled up, eyes wild. You! He hissed, recognizing Jaime's golden hair even in grime. Kingsla! Jaime's mouth tightened. Not today, he said. He had no sword.
No dagger.
Only weight, skill, and a horse that obeyed because it feared him. The boy lunged again. Jaime lifted his chained hands and brought the iron down on the boy's wrist. Bone cracked. The knife fell. The boy screamed, clutching his arm, and staggered back into mud. Another outlaw rushed in, spear thrusting toward Jaime's thigh. Jaime yanked his horse sideways at the last instant. The spear grazed leather instead of flesh. He drove the horse forward, trampling the spear shaft, snapping it beneath hooves. The escort guards stared at him, shocked, half expecting the prisoner to flee, not fight. Jaime's breath came hard. The world narrowed to motion and sound. Hoofbeats, steel, screams. The sharp scent of blood felt sickeningly familiar, like slipping into an old skin. A guard went down with an arrow in his shoulder. Another outlaw grabbed at a saddlebag, fingers clawing at straps. The captain roared, swinging a sword in brutal arcs. Jaime spotted the outlaw's leader, a thicker man with a rusted helm and a scarred cheek, shouting orders near the tree line. The leader's eyes gleamed when he saw Jaime. "Take him," the leader barked. "That's gold on legs." Outlaws surged toward Jaime, greedy. They wanted ransom. They wanted revenge. They wanted the story of dragging the Kingslayer into the mud. Jaime's heart hammered. If they took him, he would not reach the wall. He would not fulfill his exile. He would become another spark in the realm's tinder. He forced his horse forward, straight into the press, and used the animal's mass like a battering ram. Men stumbled, cursed, fell. Jaime swung his chained hands again and again, iron striking flesh, breaking fingers, splitting brows. It was ugly fighting, not knightly, but the road did not care about songs. A blade slashed at him and cut shallow across his arm. Pain flared. Jaime gritted his teeth and shoved his horse harder, driving toward the leader. The leader saw him coming and raised a spear, face twisted in a grin. Jaime closed the distance in a heartbeat and leaned low, shoulder smashing into the spear shaft. The spear slid, missed his chest by inches, and Jaime's horse barreled into the leader, slamming him into the mud with a wet grunt. The leader's helm rolled. Jaime reined hard, horse stamping. The leader looked up, eyes wide, suddenly less brave. Jaime lifted his chained hands and brought the iron down on the man's face. The leader went still. The outlaws faltered. Hunger did not like real resistance. They began to pull back, dragging wounded, cursing. "Run!" someone shouted, and the word broke their courage like glass. They vanished into the trees as quickly as they had come, leaving blood and broken weapons behind. Silence returned in ragged pieces. Jaime sat in the saddle, breathing hard, chains heavy, arm bleeding. The escort captain stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. "You could have fled," the captain said hoarsely. Jaime wiped blood from his split lip with the back of his chained hand. "And go where?" he asked quietly. The captain said nothing. The squire Jaime had saved stared up at him, shaking, awe and fear tangled together. Jaime looked away. "Mount up," he said, voice rough. "We're not done with this road." As they rode on, twilight deepening into night, Jaime felt the wound on his arm sting with every movement. He welcomed it. Proved he was still alive. And it proved, in a way that unsettled him, that even in chains he could still choose what kind of man he would be. The neck welcomed them with wet cold. The land turned to marsh and mist, the air thick with the smell of black water and decay. Reeds whispered as the wind slid through them, and unseen things splashed in the shallows. Moat Cailin rose ahead, a ruin that still knew its purpose. Broken towers crouched like old warriors, their stone eaten by time but their threat unchanged. This was where the North defended itself even in ruin. The escort rode through mud up to the horses' fetlocks, cursing under their breath. Jaime's bones ached from days in the saddle. His arm wound had crusted and pulled tight. His wrists were raw beneath the irons. They found the Night's Watch waiting within the ruin, black cloaks against gray stone, a handful of men with hard faces and tired eyes. At their front stood Yoren, shaggy-bearded, his gaze sharp as a crow's. He looked at Jaime's chains and snorted. "Well, Yoren said, voice rough as gravel. A fancy one. The escort captain dismounted and approached with stiff formality. By order of King Robert Baratheon, he announced, the prisoner Jaime Lannister is delivered to the Night's Watch to take the black. Yoren spat into the mud. Prisoner, he echoed. Aye, that's one word for it. Jaime swung down from his horse carefully, chain clinking. His boots sank into wet earth. He looked at Yoren, and Yoren looked right back, unimpressed by golden hair or famous sins. You'll be cold up there, Yoren said, as if discussing weather. Cold enough to freeze your pride. Jaime's mouth twitched. Good, he said. Yoren's brows rose slightly at the lack of complaint. Ha, he grunted. Maybe you ain't as soft as you look. A figure stood off to one side, half hidden by a broken wall. Benjen Stark, black cloak and stark face, eyes dark and hard. He watched Jaime with a stillness that reminded Jaime of Ned. The Stark men had a way of looking at you like judgment carved into flesh.
Jaime met Benjen's case.
He did not speak. What could he say? Sorry for pushing your nephew. Sorry for poisoning your brother's life. Sorry for living like a lion among wolves and then being surprised when teeth sank into him. Benjen's jaw tightened. He looked away first, turning his gaze to the marsh as if Jaime were not worth even hatred. The escort captain stepped forward. The king commands the prisoner be watched, he said. Yoren barked a laugh. The king commands, he mocked. The wall don't care what kings command. He jerked his chin at Jaime. He's ours now. The captain's face tightened. He is to arrive alive, he insisted. Yoren's smile was all teeth. If he keeps breathing, he'll arrive alive, he said. If he don't, he won't. He shrugged. That's the truth of it. The captain's hand twitched toward his sword, then stopped. There was no point threatening the watch in Moat Cailin. The North belonged to different rules. Yoren stepped closer to Jaime, eyes narrowing. You ever killed a man with your hands? He asked suddenly. Jaime blinked. Yes. Yoren grunted. You ever dug latrines? He asked. Jaime stared at him. No. Yoren smiled wider. You will, he said. A watchman stepped forward with keys. The escort captain hesitated, then nodded sharply. The keys turned. The irons were unlocked from Jaime's wrists, and for a heartbeat his hands felt oddly light, as if his body didn't trust freedom. Then Yoren's man snapped new bindings on, simpler, rougher. Not king's irons, but watch rope. Different cage, same purpose. Yoren jerked his head toward the north road. Come on then, he said. Long way to freeze. As Jaime took his first steps with the Night's Watch, he felt Benjen Stark's gaze on his back like a blade. He did not turn. Behind them, the royal escort rode away, disappearing into mist, carrying the South's heat and politics back with them. Ahead lay cold, black wool, and a wall built to keep monsters out. Jaime wondered, grimly, what the wall did when the monster arrived wearing a man's face. Snow began as a whisper and became a sentence. It fell light at first, flakes drifting like ash, then thickened until the world turned white and sound turned muffled. The road north narrowed between dark pines. The wind cut through wool and into bone. Yoren pushed the column onward with curses and stubbornness, as if swearing at the cold could make it retreat. Jaime walked on foot now. Yoren did not waste horses on prisoners unless the prisoner was half dead, and Jaime refused to be half dead out of spite alone. His hands were tied, rope biting at his wrists, and his shoulders ached from carrying a small pack like any other man. Each step crunched, each breath burned. Benjen Stark rode ahead, a black shape against the storm. He did not look back at Jaime. Jaime did not know if Benjen's silence was restraint or contempt. The watchmen around Jaime treated him like a new tool they didn't trust. Some avoided his gaze. Some stared with open dislike. One man, broad, scarred, muttered "Kinslayer" under his breath as if the word tasted good. Jaime said nothing. Words were cheap on a road like this. Only endurance mattered. A raven landed on a post half buried in snow, flapping, feathers slick with ice. One of the watchmen swore and reached up, fingers clumsy with cold, and pulled the message tube from its leg. Yoren took the parchment, squinting as snow clung to his beard. He read, lips moving, then spat into the snow. "Well," Yoren grunted. Benjen reined his horse back, eyes narrowing. "What is it?" he asked. Yoren held out the parchment. "From King's Landing," he said. "Hands seal." Benjen took it, read quickly, face tightening. He glanced briefly toward Jaime. So brief Jaime might have missed it if he weren't watching for any crack in Stark stone. "What?" Jaime asked, voice rough from cold. Benjen's jaw clenched. "The king has named Stannis Baratheon heir," Benjen said curtly. "The queen remains confined. The children are to be kept as wards." His eyes hardened. "And Lord Tywin has called his banners." The words settled into the snow like heavy stones. Yoren snorted. "Lords and their wars," he muttered, "always bleeding over into our road." Jaime's stomach tightened. Tywin had moved faster than Jaime had dared hope. Of course he had. Pride was Tywin's spine. Without it, he could not stand. Benjen folded the parchment and tucked it away. "We keep moving," he said. "The wall doesn't care who's heir." Yoren grunted agreement and shoved the column onward. Jaime walked, breath steaming, and felt the realm shifting behind him like ice cracking on a river. Stannis coming south. Tywin marching east. Cersei caged but not broken. Children held as wards like fragile hostages. Robert furious enough to do something stupid. Ned steady enough to try stopping him. Tyrion clever enough to see disaster and still be dragged into it. And Jaime. Jaime was just a man walking north into snow, leaving behind a fire he had lit and could not now control. A gust hit harder, and Jaime stumbled. He caught himself, hands tied, and felt his knees sink into snow. For a heartbeat he saw Bran Stark falling again. The helpless drop, the world turning. Jaime's chest tightened. He forced himself upright and kept walking. A watchman beside him, young, freckles, eyes wary, fell into step. "Why'd you do it?" the man asked suddenly, voice low. Jaime stared ahead. "Do what?" "Confess," the man said. "Could have kept your mouth shut. Lords do it all the time." Jaime's breath came out in a harsh puff. "A boy fell," he said simply. The watchman frowned. "A lot of boys fall," he muttered. Jaime's voice tightened. "Not because of me," he said. The watchman studied him, then looked away, uncertain what to do with a monster who sounded like a man regretting. The snow thickened. The pines loomed like dark sentinels. Somewhere, far off, a wolf howled, long and lonely, and the sound crawled into Jaime's bones. The North was calling him back, not as a guest this time, but as penance. And penance, Jaime realized, did not end when the road ended. It only changed shape. Castle Black smelled of smoke, sweat, and old fear. It sat at the foot of the wall like a stubborn stain. Its wooden palisades and black stone buildings crouched against the endless white cliff that rose behind it. The wall was not merely tall. It was wrong, too immense, too ancient, too indifferent. Moonlight turned it into a pale blade against the sky, and the wind that slid down its face carried a cold that felt alive. Jaime stood in the yard with snow in his hair and frost clinging to his lashes. Men stared as he was led through the gate, brothers in black, some with faces like carved rock, some with eyes too young for the things they had seen. Whispers followed him, sharper than southern gossip. "Kingslayer, lion, fucker of queens." Jaime kept his face still. He had learned long ago that flinching only fed cruelty. Jeor Mormont met him near the hall, a compact man wrapped in black furs, eyes sharp beneath heavy brows. His voice was rough and practical. "So," Jeor said, looking Jaime up and down, "this is the realm's new offering." Yoren grunted. "He walked the whole way," he said, as if it mattered. Jeor's gaze flicked to Jaime's raw wrists, to the bruises, to the wound on his arm. "He's alive," Jeor said. "That's something." His eyes narrowed. "Why are you here, Ser Jaime? Truly." Jaime's mouth tightened. Because I confessed, he said. Gior snorted softly. Confession doesn't bring men to the wall, he said. Fear does. Punishment does. Escape does. He leaned in slightly. What does confession bring you? Jaime kept his face still. An end to lying, Jaime said. Gior watched him for a long moment, then straightened. We'll see, he said. The wall has a way of stripping men to bone. That night, under starfrost and torchlight, Jaime was brought to the Heart Tree. The Night's Watch allowed men to swear their vows to whatever gods they still believed in. Most chose the old gods here, because the wall was older than the Seven, and the Heart Tree's face watched with carved patience. The weirwood at Castle Black was smaller than Winterfell's, but its presence felt heavier. Its white bark stark against the dark, its red leaves like blood in snow. The pool beneath it was half-frozen, black water shining between thin sheets of ice. Brothers gathered in a half-circle, breath steaming. Benjen Stark stood rigid, arms crossed, eyes hard. Yoren watched with a grim smirk. Gior Mormont stood near the tree, face severe. And there, standing slightly apart, black cloak drawn tight, dark hair dusted with snow, was Jon Snow. A dire wolf stood beside him, larger than any wolf had a right to be, red eyes watching, breath smoking. Ghost. The animal's gaze fixed on Jaime with a quiet, unsettling intelligence. Jon Snow's eyes were just as steady, dark, assessing, older than his years. Jaime felt the bastard stare like a mirror held up too close. Gior's voice cut through the cold. Kneel, he commanded. Jaime knelt. Snow soaked into his knees, cold biting through cloth. For a heartbeat, he felt the same stone bite from the September and the same damp bite from Winterfell's godswood. Different gods, same judgment. Gior nodded to him. Speak the words, Gior said. Jaime lifted his hands, palms up, as if offering them to fate. He drew in a breath so cold it hurt. Night gathers, he began, voice steady in the freezing air. The brothers answered, voices a low murmur. And now my watch begins. I shall take no wife, Jaime said, and the words struck him with strange force, an ending spoken aloud. Hold no lands, father no children. The lie he had lived, children he had fathered and never claimed, burned behind his ribs. He forced himself through it. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. He almost laughed at that. Glory had been his curse more than his prize. I shall live and die at my post. The wind hissed through branches. The direwolf's ears twitched. I am the sword in the darkness, Jaime said, and remembered a sword in a different darkness. Ares's blood, wildfire's smell. I am the watcher on the walls. The wall loomed behind him like a silent witness. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. Jaime's throat tightened on the last words. Shield, guard. The things he had pretended to be. He finished, voice low and fierce. I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch, for this night and all the nights to come. Silence held for a breath. Then Gior nodded once, satisfied enough. Rise, he said. Jaime stood. His knees ached. His hands trembled slightly from cold, not fear. As the brothers began to disperse, Jon Snow remained where he was. Ghost stayed at his side, still watching.
Jaime met Jon's case.
For a long moment neither spoke. The snow fell softly between them, as if the world wanted to hush whatever might be said. Finally, Jon Snow's voice broke the silence, quiet and sharp. Did you mean it? He asked. Jaime's mouth tightened. Mean what? Your confession, Jon said. His eyes did not blink. Did you mean it? Or was it just another way to save yourself? Jaime felt the question like a blade sliding under armor. He thought of Bran Stark's gasp. He thought of Cersei's eyes. He thought of Robert's roar. He thought of the road and the ambush and the farmer's child staring. I meant it, Jaime said quietly. Jon Snow's gaze held him a moment longer, then flicked to Ghost, as if weighing something unspoken. Then live like it, Jon said, and turned away. Ghost lingered half a heartbeat, red eyes locked on Jaime, then followed Jon into the darkness. Jaime stood beneath the heart tree, the wall behind him, the cold in his lungs, and felt the strange, brutal simplicity of his new life settle over him. In the south, kings raged and lions called banners. In the north, the night waited, and Jaime Lannister, no longer a white cloak, no longer a golden knight, stood at the edge of the world and knew that exile was not escape. It was the beginning. Castle Black did not care who a man had been. It chewed names into gristle and spat them out as crow and brother and bastard and thief. It turned knights into laborers and princes into shivering shapes hunched over fire. Jaime learned that quickly because the wall taught with blunt hands. On his first morning after the vows, he woke to a horn and the sound of men cursing at cold. The barracks smelled of sweat trapped in wool and the sour bite of boots that never fully dried. Men rose, pulled on Black, and shuffled like ghosts toward whatever duty the day demanded. No one offered Jaime a place by the warmer hearth. No one offered him a friendly nod. A few looked at him as if waiting for him to fall so they could laugh and feel lighter. He dressed in black wool that scratched at his skin and felt wrong after years of fine cloth and fitted leather. It was not the color that bothered him. It was the truth it carried. Black did not flatter. Black did not lie. Black swallowed a man and showed only what he was made of. Outside, the yard was a churned field of snow and mud. The wall loomed so close it seemed to steal breath, its face streaked with wind-carved lines like scars. Men sparred in clumsy circles, blades cracking against each other, voices raised in anger and frustration. Ser Alliser Thorne paced among them like a gaunt wolf, his mouth twisted with contempt as he snapped orders. Again, Thorne barked. You swing like you're stirring porridge. Again. Jon Snow moved through the chaos with a grim steadiness, his practiced sword rising and falling with a focus that made the other recruits look slow. He struck Gren on the shoulder, then stepped back, breathing hard, eyes narrowing. PYP laughed from the edge of the circle, then flinched when Thorne's glare cut toward him. Jaime stood apart with his arms folded, breath steaming. He could feel eyes on him. Not the curious stares of small folk at an inn. These were colder, sharper, men who had been cast to the edge of the world and learned to hate anything that reminded them of the world's warmth. Donal Noy leaned near the smithy, hammer in hand, watching the yard as if weighing meat. One arm ended at the elbow, the sleeve pinned back, but the man carried himself like iron given a voice. His gaze flicked to Jaime and held there, assessing. Thorne noticed Jaime's stillness and chose it like a bruise to press. Well, Thorne called, voice carrying across the yard. Look what the cold has blown in. The Kingslayer, come to teach us honor. A few brothers snorted. Someone spat into the slush. Jaime didn't move. He kept his face blank, but inside the old anger stirred. Not at Thorne. Thorne was a bitter man who fed on cruelty because it was the only power he had left. But at the part of Jaime that still wanted to snap back, to draw steel, to end mockery with blood. Thorne strode closer, boots crunching. What's wrong, Lannister? He sneered.
No sword?
No pretty cloak? No queen to hide behind. The yard quieted slightly, like animals going still before a kick.
Jaime met Thorne's case.
No, he said simply. Thorne's lip curled. Then you're nothing, he spat. Jaime felt the words land, and he did not deny them. He only breathed once, slow. Then you've got what you want, he replied. Thorne blinked, thrown off by the lack of fight. His sneer deepened anyway, because men like Thorne needed enemies even when the enemy refused to bare teeth. You don't get to stand idle, Thorne snapped. Not here, not on my yard. If you're a brother of the Watch, you train like any other. Pick up a blade. Jaime's eyes flicked to the practice swords stacked near the wall. He could feel the weight of his old sword in memory, the familiarity of the hilt, the way steel had always made sense when words did not. He walked over, boots sinking in slush, and lifted a wooden blade. The grain was rough. The balance was wrong. The wood smelled of sap and old sweat. Still, it sat in his hand like an old friend he did not deserve. Thorne jerked his chin. You! He barked at a broad-shouldered ranger with a crooked nose. "Take him." The ranger's eyes gleamed with the promise of violence. He stepped forward, rolling his shoulders like a man eager to hit something that might hit back. Jaime took his place in the ring. Men formed a loose circle, hungry for spectacle. He felt Jon Snow's gaze on him, sharp, guarded, like a wolf watching a trap. "Begin," Thorne snapped. The ranger lunged hard, swinging with brute force. Jaime moved without thinking, stepping aside, letting the blade pass where his head had been. The ranger snarled, swung again. Jaime parried with the wooden sword, feeling the shock run up his arm. He absorbed it, adjusted, and flowed into a counter that tapped the ranger's ribs with controlled precision. The ranger snarled louder and came in with a wild swing. Jaime ducked, pivoted, and swept the man's legs with a quick hook of his foot. The ranger hit the slush with a grunt, surprised. The yard went quiet. Jaime stepped back, breathing steady, wooden blade low. He did not smile. He did not bow. He simply waited. The ranger surged up, fury in his eyes now, and attacked again, harder. Jaime parried, shifted, and tapped him again. Shoulder, wrist, thigh, each strike measured, the way a man measured a river's current so it would not pull him under. He could end it quickly. He chose not to. Thorne's face tightened, anger twisting into something like uncertainty. Donal Noy watched, expression unreadable. Jon Snow's jaw clenched as he watched Jaime move with an ease that made the Watch's rough training look like children flailing in mud. Finally, the ranger overcommit, swinging too wide. Jaime stepped inside the arc and pressed the wooden blade to the man's throat. Stillness. Jaime lowered his sword and stepped back, letting the ranger breathe. The man stood there, humiliated, chest heaving, eyes burning. Thorne's voice cut through the silence like a lash. "Enough," he snapped, though it sounded less like command and more like damage control. "Back to your drills." Men broke apart reluctantly, whispers rising again. Jaime turned away from the ring and walked toward the smithy, wooden blade still in hand. His arm ached from parrying heavy strikes. He welcomed the ache. It reminded him he was not made only of sins. Donal Noy's voice stopped him. "You fight like a knight," Noy said, as if stating whether. Jaime looked at him. "I was," he replied. Noy snorted. "Were," he echoed. "Aye. And now you're a crow like the rest." His one hand lifted the hammer slightly. "The wall don't care how pretty you swing. It cares if you can swing when your fingers are numb and your belly's empty." Jaime nodded once. "Then I'll learn," he said. Noy's gaze held him a moment, then shifted back to the yard. "We'll see," he grunted. Jaime set the wooden blade back with the others and walked into the slush again, joining the drills without another word. Around him, men stared with new unease. Not respect, not yet, but the first crack in certainty that he would break. Jaime welcomed the crack. He had broken too many things. Now he needed to learn how to hold. The hall was louder at night, because men needed noise to drown the wind. Torches guttered in iron sconces, throwing greasy light over long tables scarred by knives and years. The hearth roared, but its warmth fought a losing battle against the cold that seeped through stone and timber like a patient disease. Men ate thin stew and hard bread, bowls clutched close, shoulders hunched. Laughter burst and died quickly, turning into coughing. Someone sang a bawdy verse off-key until a mug struck the table and silenced him. Jaime stepped into the hall and felt the hush ripple outward in small waves. It wasn't total silence. Castle Black didn't give a man the dignity of full attention, but conversations dipped, eyes lifted, and the air sharpened with expectation. The Kingslayer among crows, the lion in black wool. He carried his bowl like any other, took his place where there was space, and sat without claiming. The bench creaked beneath him. The stew smelled of onions that had seen better days. He ate anyway, each spoonful a reminder that his life now ran on what the Watch gave, not what Lannister gold bought. Across the hall, Jon Snow sat with Gren and PYP, their faces flushed from training and heat. Samwell Tarly hunched beside them, broad shoulders curved inward as if trying to disappear. His eyes flicked nervously from his bowl to the room, always waiting for ridicule to find him. Ghost lay at Jon's feet, red eyes open, watching the hall as if the hall might shift into danger. When Jaime sat, Ghost's gaze slid to him and held, unblinking. Jaime kept eating. He felt Jon's eyes on him too, the weight of them like a blade laid across his shoulders. Finally Jon stood, bowl in hand, and walked toward Jaime's table with controlled steps. Men watched with open curiosity now, smelling conflict the way dogs smelled blood. Jon stopped beside Jaime, looking down at him. Jaime looked up and met his gaze. For a heartbeat neither spoke. Then Jon's voice came low and sharp. "You didn't apologize," he said. Jaime's spoon paused. "I didn't think you wanted it," he replied. Jon's jaw clenched. "I don't," Jon said. His eyes burned. "But you still owe it." The hall quieted further. Even the hearth seemed to crackle softer. Jaime set his spoon down slowly. "You're right," he said. Jon's brows drew together, thrown off by agreement. "So say it," Jon snapped. Jaime swallowed. He could taste smoke and stew and the bitter edge of memory. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For Bran Stark." Jon's face tightened. "Sorry doesn't fix him," he hissed. "No," Jaime agreed. "It doesn't." Jon's hands tightened on his bowl. "Why did you do it?" he demanded. "Why did you push a boy?" Jaime felt the eyes of the hall on him like heat. He could have lied. He could have offered some half-truth that spared him. He chose what he had chosen in the throne room. "Because he saw me," Jaime said, "with Cersei Lannister. Because I thought the lie mattered more than his life." Jon's face went pale with fury. "You thought," he echoed, voice shaking. "You thought a lie was worth murdering a child." Jaime's throat tightened. "Yes," he said, "and I was wrong." Jon stared at him as if trying to find the monster he had imagined in stories, and finding instead a man who did not flinch from his own ugliness. It did not soothe Jon. If anything, it angered him more because it offered no simple target. Ghost's ears pricked, and a low growl rolled from his chest, soft but warning. Jaime kept his hands on the table, open. He did not reach for any weapon because he had none, and because this was not a fight to win. Jon's voice dropped, trembling with restrained violence. "If Bran dies," Jon said, "I will never forgive you." Jaime nodded once. "You shouldn't," he replied. Jon's mouth twisted. "You confessed to save yourself," he spat. Jaime's voice stayed steady. "I confessed to stop the lie from killing more," he said. He held Jon's gaze. "And to make sure men like you knew the truth, so you could hate me for what I am, not what rumor says." Jon's eyes narrowed. "I don't need rumor," he said coldly. He turned abruptly and walked away, bowl still in hand, Ghost rising to follow at his heel. The hall breathed again, disappointed the conflict hadn't spilled into fists and blood. Men returned to their stew and their laughter, though their eyes still flicked toward Jaime now and then like fingers touching a bruise. Samwell Tarly rose after Jon left, hesitating, then shuffled over toward Jaime's table. His cheeks were red, his eyes nervous, but he moved with a stubborn kind of gentleness. "Sir," Sam began, then swallowed. "Brother, I mean..." Jaime looked at him. "Jaime," he said.
Sam blinked.
"Jaime," he repeated, as if the simplicity surprised him. Sam shifted his bowl in his hands. "They say you..." He stopped, looking pained. "They say awful things." "They're not wrong," Jaime said.
Sam's brows knit.
"Some of them are cruel for the joy of it," Sam said softly. "I know what that feels like." Jaime studied him a moment. Sam was soft-bodied, yes, but there was something in his eyes that had survived long nights. Fear, certainly, but also a kind of quiet endurance. "Why are you talking to me?" Jaime asked.
Sam swallowed.
"Because you looked like a man alone," he said simply. "And because..." He hesitated. "Because you stopped your captain's men from stealing from that farmer on the road. Yoren told some of us." Jaime's mouth tightened. "That was nothing," he said. Sam's voice was small but firm. "It was something," he insisted. "Most men wouldn't have bothered." Jaime felt a strange tightness in his chest again, the kind he had felt when the little girl stared at him in the village. He did not know what to do with kindness that wasn't owed. He nodded at the bench. "Sit," he said. Sam sat, relief flooding his face as if he had expected rejection. They ate in silence for a while, the hall's noise rolling around them like surf. After a time, Sam spoke again, hesitant. Do you think a man can be different?" he asked. Jaime looked at him over the rim of his bowl. "He can try," Jaime said. Sam's eyes dropped. "Trying doesn't always work." "No," Jaime admitted, "but it's the only thing worth doing when the past won't let go." Sam nodded slowly, as if storing the words like a small flame to carry through cold. Across the hall, Ser Alliser Thorne watched them from the high table with a narrowed gaze, displeased to see the Kingslayer not breaking fast enough. Jaime met Thorne's eyes briefly and then looked away. He did not need to win Thorne. He needed to outlast him. Jeor Mormont did not waste time on ceremony. He called Jaime to the hall the next evening with a curt message delivered by a boy whose cheeks were raw from wind. Jaime went with steady steps, ignoring the whispers that followed him through corridors. He had learned that at the Wall, a man's reputation walked ahead of him like a shadow. The only way to change it was to keep walking until the shadow shifted. Jeor's hall was smaller than a Southern Lord's feast room, but it felt heavier. Stone walls held the cold. Timber beams were dark with age and smoke. A long table stood near the hearth, covered in maps weighted by daggers and stones. Raven cages lined one wall, the birds inside restless, their black eyes bright. Jeor sat in a heavy chair, wrapped in furs that made him look like a bear in human shape. Bowen Marsh stood near the table, cheeks pinched, eyes worried. Othel Yarwick leaned against a post, arms folded, builder's hands thick and scarred. Maester Aemon sat quietly near the fire, white hair thin, sightless eyes turned toward sound. Benjen Stark stood off to the side, posture rigid, gaze cold. Jaime stepped forward and stopped where Jeor's gaze pinned him. "Lord Commander," Jaime said. Jeor's mouth twitched. "Brother," Jeor corrected. Jaime nodded once. "Lord Commander," he repeated. "Brother." Jeor studied him a moment, then jerked his chin toward the table. Practice sword lay there, plain wood worn from use. "Pick it up," Jeor said. Jaime did. Jeor's eyes narrowed. "You fought in the yard," Jeor said. "Thorne says you embarrassed one of his men." Thorne's voice would have been venom. Jaime could imagine it. "I didn't mean to," Jaime said. Benjen snorted softly from the side, the sound full of disbelief. Jeor's gaze held steady. "Meaning doesn't matter," Jeor said. "Only what happens." He leaned forward slightly. "What are you here for, Jaime Lannister?" Jaime's grip tightened on the wooden sword. "To serve," he said. Bowen Marsh's mouth tightened. "Serve," he echoed, skeptical. "Or hide." Jeor raised a hand slightly, silencing him. "Answer me," Jeor repeated. Jaime felt the old instinct to perform, the charming smile, the easy arrogance. He killed it before it could rise. "I'm here because I confessed," he said. "Because King Robert Baratheon exiled me, and because I chose not to resist it." Othel Yarwick grunted. "You had no choice," he said. Jaime met his gaze. "I had choices before," he replied. "I made the wrong ones. I'm trying to make different ones now." Benjen's eyes sharpened. "Trying doesn't undo what you did," he said flatly. Jaime did not flinch. "No," he agreed. Jeor watched, expression unreadable. "We are not a place for redemption tales," Jeor said. "We are a place for men who do what must be done." He nodded toward Benjen. "My first ranger says you're poison." Benjen's jaw tightened, but he did not deny it. Jeor's gaze returned to Jaime. "Convince me he's wrong," Jeor said. Jaime's throat tightened. "How?" he asked. Jeor's mouth curled faintly. Not with words, Gior said. He nodded at a door, and a ranger stepped in, broad, scarred, older than most, his eyes hard. The man carried a wooden blade too. Donnell, Gior said. Test him. Donnell stepped into the open space near the hearth. Jaime followed, boots scraping stone. Men in the hall shifted, watching. Even Maester Aemon's head tilted slightly, listening. Jaime took his stance, blade low. Donnell came at him with controlled force, not the wild swing of a yard bully. Jaime parried, the wood cracking loudly. Donnell pressed, testing Jaime's footwork, trying to drive him back. Jaime gave ground in measured steps, eyes focused, breathing steady. He felt the old skill in his muscles, the years of training as if it had been written into bone. He could have beaten Donnell quickly. He didn't. He let Donnell push, let the test reveal not only skill but restraint. Donnell feinted left, then drove in hard at Jaime's ribs. Jaime pivoted, caught the blade, and slid his own wood down the line until it pressed against Donnell's throat. The move was fast, clean, and final. Donnell froze, breathing hard. Jaime held the position a heartbeat, then stepped back and lowered his blade. Gior's eyes narrowed. You could have ended him sooner, Gior said. Yes, Jaime replied. Why didn't you? Gior asked. Jaime's voice stayed quiet. Because this isn't a tourney, he said. And because I'm not here to prove I'm better than men who've bled in black while I wore white. Silence settled. Benjen's gaze did not soften, but it shifted fractionally, as if seeing a different shape in the man before him. Gior leaned back in his chair. You're useful, Gior said finally. That's what you are. His eyes sharpened. But useful men can still be dangerous. Jaime nodded. I know, he said. Gior's voice turned practical. You'll train recruits when Thorne isn't watching, he said. Quietly, you'll help Donnell Noy with the armory. You'll do your shares of filth and labor like any other. He leaned forward. And if you so much as whisper to the south for favors, if I hear of bribes, threats, Lannister gold, I'll have you clapped in irons and tossed into an ice cell until spring forgets your name. Jaime met his gaze. Understood, he said. Gior's mouth tightened. Good. He nodded once. Now go earn your black. Jaime turned to leave. As he passed Benjen's voice stopped him, low and hard. If you hurt my family again, Benjen said, no vow will protect you. Jaime paused. He did not look back. I know, he said, and walked out into the cold. Maester Aemon's chamber smelled of old paper and smoke. It was warmer than most rooms in Castle Black, not because it had a better fire, but because the cold seemed to respect the weight of years that sat within those walls. Books lined shelves, their spines cracked, their pages yellowed. A small window showed a world of snow and gray sky, the light muted as if the north had laid cloth over the sun. Jaime sat low near the hearth, hands extended toward the thin warmth. Maester Aemon sat opposite in a simple chair, dark robes draped over fragile shoulders. His eyes were clouded, blind, but his face turned toward Jaime with an attention that made Jaime feel more seen than any stare in the yard. You are troubled, Aemon said softly. Jaime let out a breath. Isn't everyone here? He replied. Aemon's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Most men hide their trouble behind noise, he said. You carry yours like a stone. Jaime stared into the fire. The flames licked at logs and turned them into glowing ruin. I confessed, Jaime said, and it changed nothing. Aemon's head tilted slightly. Did it change nothing? He asked. Or did it change what you can no longer pretend? Jaime's throat tightened. Both, he admitted. Aemon's voice stayed gentle. Tell me, he said, why did you kill your king? The question struck like a thrown knife, because it was asked without accusation, without the familiar sneer. It was asked the way a maester asked why the sky turned red at dusk, because the answer mattered. Jaime's mouth went dry. He could have given the old answer, because I wanted glory, because I was young, because I was arrogant. He had let the realm believe those lies for years because the truth was a wound no one wanted to touch. I killed Aerys II Targaryen, Jaime said quietly. Because he meant to burn King's Landing. Aemon's face did not change. Only his fingers tightened slightly on the arms of his chair. He ordered wildfire, Jaime continued, words spilling now as if the room's warmth loosened them. He ordered 500,000 people burned because he was afraid, because he wanted to take them with him. Jaime swallowed. I heard him. I saw the pyromancers. I saw the fear. His voice roughened. So I killed him. Aemon was silent a long moment. The fire crackled. Snow hissed softly against the window. And the realm called you Kingslayer? Aemon said at last. Jaime let out a bitter breath. Yes. Aemon's head turned slightly, as if looking toward the wall beyond the window, though he could not see it. The realm prefers simple stories, he said. A hero, a villain, a clean song. His voice softened further. Truth is rarely clean. Jaime stared at the fire. I let them hate me, he said, because explaining felt pointless. Because he swallowed. Because part of me thought I deserved hatred anyway. Aemon's voice was quiet. Perhaps you did, he said. For other sins. Jaime's jaw tightened. Yes, he whispered. Aemon's blind eyes turned toward him. You pushed a child, Aemon said, not asking. Jaime flinched as if struck. Yes, he said. Why? Jaime's hands clenched. To protect a lie, he said. To protect my sister. To protect myself. His voice broke slightly. To protect children born of that lie. Aemon's face tightened with sorrow. A child's life for a lie, he murmured. That is a hard trade. Jaime's throat burned. I know, he said. Aemon's voice remained calm. Do you believe oaths matter? He asked. Jaime's mouth twisted. I don't know what I believe, he admitted. I believed in oaths once. Then I learned oaths can be cages. And excuses. Aemon nodded slowly. Oaths can be both, he said. A vow is only as strong as the man who keeps it. His hands folded. But there is a thing men mistake for honor. They think honor is being seen as good. It is not. Aemon's voice turned sharper, just slightly. Honor is doing what must be done when no one will praise you for it. Jaime stared at him, the words settling into his bones like cold iron. Aemon's head tilted. You confessed, he said. You chose exile. That is not nothing. It doesn't fix Bran Stark, Jaime whispered. No, Aemon agreed. It does not. His voice softened again. But it may stop you from pushing another child. Jaime swallowed hard. Aemon's lips moved, almost a prayer. There is a war coming, he said quietly. Not only in the south. His blind eyes lifted slightly, as if listening to something beyond the crackle of fire. Men think the wall is the end of the world. They are wrong. It is only the edge of what they understand. Jaime felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. What do you mean? He asked. Aemon's voice turned distant. I have read old words, he said. I have heard old fears in the voices of rangers. He paused. Winter is coming, and not merely as snow. Jaime stared at the old man, and for the first time since the throne room confession, fear returned. Real fear, not of judgment or death, but of something vast and indifferent. Aemon's head inclined. You have lived among lions, he said. Now you will learn what it means to face darkness that does not care about pride. Jaime's mouth tightened. And if I'm not enough? He asked quietly. Aemon's face softened. Then be what you can, he said. And let that be enough. Jaime sat in the warmth of Maester Aemon's chamber, listening to the fire and the wind beyond the window, and felt something shift inside him. Small, painful, but real. Not forgiveness, but the first fragile shape of purpose. 2 days after the ambush news reached Castle Black, Jeor Mormont ordered a short ranging. It was not announced like a grand decision. No horn sounded. No speeches were made. The watch simply moved because moving was what it did when the world shifted. A few rangers were named. Supplies were packed. Horses were saddled. The gate under the wall, an ancient throat of ice, was opened. Jaime learned about it when Donal Noy shoved a bundle of worn leather into his arms and grunted, "Don't come back missing toes." He found Benjen Stark in the yard, checking saddles with curt efficiency. Benjen's face was set, as if carved from the same stone as Winterfell. When Jaime approached, Benjen's eyes narrowed. "No," Benjen said flatly. Jaime stopped. "I didn't ask yet," he replied. Benjen's mouth tightened. "You don't need to," he said. "You're not coming." Jaime's jaw tightened. "Jeor Mormont didn't say I couldn't," he said. Benjen stepped closer, voice low. "The wall is not your stage," he said. "You don't get to ride north to feel heroic while my brothers risk their lives." Jaime met his gaze. "I'm not chasing heroics," Jaime said quietly. "I'm chasing duty." Benjen's eyes flashed. "Duty," he echoed, contempt thick. "You speak like a Stark now." Jaime's mouth twisted. "If I spoke like a Stark, I wouldn't be here," he said. For a moment Benjen's expression hardened further, as if the words struck too close. Then his gaze shifted, assessing. "Why do you want to go?" he demanded. Jaime's voice stayed even. "Because I'm useful with a blade," he said. "Because the Watch needs every man who can hold steel." He paused. "And because if something beyond the wall is stirring, I want to see it before it comes for us." Benjen's eyes narrowed. "You think the cold scares you?" he said. "The cold is the kindest thing you'll meet out there." Jaime held his gaze. "Then let me meet the rest," he said. Benjen stared at him a long moment, then turned away sharply. "Lord Commander," he called toward the hall, and Jeor Mormont emerged a moment later, fur-wrapped and stern. Jeor's gaze flicked between them. "What is this?" he asked. Benjen spoke first, voice tight. "He wants to come," Benjen said, as if reporting a sickness. Jeor looked at Jaime. "Do you?" Jeor asked. Jaime nodded. "Yes," he said, "if you'll allow it." Jeor's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Jaime breathed once. "Because I swore," he said, "and because I have more to atone for than most." He held Jeor's gaze. "If I die out there, it's still service." Jeor's mouth tightened, not unkindly. "We don't trade men for poetry," he said. "We use what we have." He looked at Benjen. "Can he ride?" Benjen's jaw clenched. "He's not the one I'm worried about surviving," Benjen said. Jeor's eyes flicked back to Jaime. "You keep to orders," Jeor said. "You don't wander. You don't try to lead. You don't try to prove anything." His voice hardened. "You listen to Benjen Stark." Jaime nodded. "I will," he said. Benjen's mouth tightened further, but he did not argue. Jeor's decision was final in this place. As dusk fell, they gathered at the tunnel gate. Torches flared, their light catching in the ice walls and turning them blue, like a frozen cathedral lit from within. The air grew colder as they approached, the cold changing quality. Less like winter, more like a breath from something ancient. Jon Snow stood on the castle blackside, watching. Ghost sat beside him, still as stone. Jon's eyes followed Jaime, unreadable. Jaime paused briefly at the mouth of the tunnel and looked at Jon. Jon did not nod. He did not speak. He only watched, as if trying to decide whether the man in black was still the same monster who had pushed a boy. Jaime did not ask for understanding. He stepped into the tunnel. The wall swallowed them. Ice dripped slowly from above, each drop a patient reminder of time. The horses' hooves echoed, muffled. The torchlight flickered against blue-white walls. Jaime felt his breath tighten in his chest, not from cold, but from the sense of passing into a world that did not belong to men. On the other side, the haunted forest waited, dark trees, deep snow, silence too thick. Benjen Stark led them out into it without looking back. They found the dead men at the edge of a clearing where the snow had gone strangely smooth. Benjen's rangers halted, hands tightening on reins, eyes scanning. The air felt wrong. Too still, too cold, as if the forest itself held its breath. Jaime felt it in his teeth, a biting chill that didn't fade when he exhaled. Two bodies lay half buried in snow, black cloak stiff, faces pale. Night's Watchmen. Their mouths were open as if caught mid-breath, their eyes frozen wide. One had frost clinging to his lashes like white feathers. A ranger dismounted and knelt, gloved hands pressing at a throat. He shook his head slowly. "Dead," the ranger said. Benjen's jaw tightened. "Bring them," he ordered after a moment. "The Lord Commander must see." Jaime stared at the bodies. Something in him recoiled, not disgust. He'd seen too many corpses for that, but a deeper unease, the kind that rose when instinct whispered danger without name. "Burn them," Jaime said suddenly. Benjen's head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing. "We don't burn our dead like wildlings," Benjen snapped. Jaime's voice stayed tight. "You said the cold is kind," he replied. "This cold isn't kind. It's..." He swallowed, searching for the right word. "It's waiting." The rangers looked at him sharply. Superstition lived near the wall like a second skin. Men told stories of whites and the others as children's fears, then watched the tree line at night anyway. Benjen's gaze hardened. "You'll follow my orders," he said flatly. Jaime held his gaze, then nodded once. "I will," he said, and hated the taste of surrender on his tongue. They lifted the bodies onto pack horses and rode back through the tunnel under the wall in a silence that felt heavier than any chain. Jaime watched the dead men's hands bump limply against saddle leather with each step and felt the unease tighten. That night, Castle Black slept poorly. The wind rose and battered the palisade. The wall groaned softly, a sound like ice shifting in pain. Men muttered prayers into blankets. Somewhere a raven croaked in its cage like a warning. Jaime lay in his bunk with eyes open, listening. He couldn't stop seeing the dead men's faces. He couldn't stop feeling that wrong stillness in the forest. When the scream came, it tore through the barracks like a blade. Jaime was on his feet before thought caught up. He grabbed for his belt out of habit and found only emptiness, no sword. He swore under his breath and ran barefoot on cold stone, boots half-laced, following the sound. Men poured into corridors, half-dressed, shouting questions. Torches flared. Panic spread fast in a place like this, where fear was already a daily meal. The scream came again, from Jeor Mormont's chambers. Jaime reached the door as it burst open and a brother stumbled out, face white with terror. Behind him, smoke and firelight flickered. Jaime shoved inside. The room was chaos. Fire flaring in the hearth, shadows leaping on stone. Jeor Mormont stood half-armored, reaching for a sword as a figure lunged at him out of the dark. It was a man and not a man. The creature's skin was pale and stiff with frost. Its eyes were dead white, shining like ice in torchlight. Its mouth was stretched in a snarl that showed blackened teeth. It moved with unnatural speed, arms reaching, fingers clawing. Jeor swung his sword awkwardly, the blade biting into frozen flesh. The creature did not bleed. It did not cry out. It only kept coming, relentless. Jaime's blood turned to ice. He saw in a flash Bran Stark falling, life turning to helplessness. He saw Aerys' madness, death turning to inevitability. He saw his own hands empty, useless. Then he saw a torch. It was propped near the door, its flame bright. Jaime grabbed it and hurled himself forward. The creature turned toward him, dead eyes fixing on him with a hunger that felt older than hatred. It lunged. Jaime drove the burning torch straight into its chest. Flame caught on dry cloth and frozen flesh with a hiss like a snake. The creature thrashed, arms flailing, clawing at Jaime's shoulders. The cold of its hands burned worse than fire. Jaime gritted his teeth and shoved harder, forcing the torch deeper, letting the flame do what steel could not. The creature's fingers raked his cheek, tearing skin. Jaime didn't let go. Behind him, the door slammed open again. Jon Snow burst in, sword in hand, face fierce. Ghost followed at his heel, snarling, teeth bared. Jon's eyes widened at the sight, Jaime grappling with a burning nightmare. "Get back!" Jon shouted, lunging forward. Jaime shoved the creature away just as Jon swung. Steel sliced into burning flesh. The creature staggered, flames roaring higher now, and crashed into a table, scattering papers and cups. Fire spread fast, hungry. Jeor Mormont grabbed a cloak and beat at flames licking near the bed. Men spilled in behind Jon, shouting. Someone threw water that hissed uselessly on burning frost. Ghost circled, snarling, then lunged in and tore at the creature's leg, teeth sinking into cloth and frozen flesh. The creature kicked, barely noticing. Jaime seized a second torch from the wall and slammed it down onto the creature as it writhed, fire doubling, swallowing. At last, the creature's movements slowed. The thrashing became jerks, then twitches. The dead white eyes stared blankly as flames consumed everything that had made it move. The smell was foul. Burning cloth, burning hair, something older and wrong beneath. Silence crept in around the crackle of fire. Jaime stood breathing hard, hands shaking, soot on his sleeves. His cheek bled where the creature's nails had torn him. His heart hammered like it wanted out of his chest. Jeor Mormont stared at the charred remains, face grim. 7 hells, Jeor muttered. Maester Aemon's voice came from the doorway, calm despite the chaos. "It begins," he said softly. Men stared at him, frightened. Jon Snow's eyes snapped to Jaime. For a heartbeat, Jon looked like he didn't know what to do. Hate still there, but now tangled with shock and something like reluctant recognition. Jaime wiped blood from his cheek with a trembling hand. "We should have burned the bodies," he said hoarsely. Benjen Stark appeared in the doorway then, face tight, eyes hard. He looked at the burned remains, then at Jaime. For the first time since Winterfell, Benjen's expression held something like uncertainty, not forgiveness, but the first crack in certainty that Jaime's instincts were only poison. Outside, the wind howled against the wall, and Castle Black felt suddenly smaller, like a candle in a vast dark. Morning came thin and gray, like a tired apology. The yard was packed with men who should have been asleep, their faces drawn tight, eyes too bright. Smoke still rose from blackened scraps laid on the snow, the smell of burned wrongness clinging to the air. Men stared at the charred remains as if expecting them to stand again. Jeor Mormont stood near the center, fur cloak heavy on his shoulders, his face grim. Bowen Marsh hovered nearby, lips pinched, anxiety carved deep. Othel Yarwick muttered under his breath about palisades and gates. Yoren spat and crossed himself in one quick motion, as if hedging bets between gods. Jaime stood off to one side, soot still on his sleeves, cheek scratched raw where dead nails had torn him. He felt every stare, but they were different now. Not only contempt, there was fear in them, and fear shifted the way men looked at each other. Fear made enemies into tools if the tool could keep darkness away. Ser Alliser Thorne pushed through the crowd, face red with anger, eyes sharp. He looked at the burned remains, then at Jaime, and his mouth curled. "So," Thorne said loudly, voice carrying, "the lion thinks himself a savior now." A few men snorted, but the sound died quickly. No one wanted to laugh too hard when the dead had walked.
Jaime met Thorne's case.
"The dead walked," Jaime said quietly. "Do you want to argue about which man lit the torch?" Thorne's eyes flashed. "You want praise," he snarled. "That's it. You want men to forget what you did in the South because you burned a corpse." Jaime's jaw tightened. "I don't want you to forget," he said. "I want you alive." Thorne's sneer tightened, then flickered, as if Jaime's lack of defense robbed him of the fight he craved. He turned his glare toward Jeor. "Lord Commander," he spat. "This is witchery, wildling tricks. We should." Jeor's voice cut him off like an axe. "We should listen," Jeor said. "Because whatever it is, it killed 2 of our brothers and tried to kill me in my bed." His gaze swept the crowd. "And if you think pride will keep your throat from being torn out in the night, you're stupider than I thought." Murmurs rose, uneasy. Maester Aemon's voice drifted from near the hall steps, calm and thin. "Fire," he said, and heads turned toward him. "Fire kills what steel cannot." Jon Snow stood near the front, sword still in hand as if he couldn't bring himself to set it down. Ghost sat beside him, red eyes scanning the crowd, ears twitching. Jon's face was pale but set, the kind of pale men wore when fear turned to resolve. Gior's gaze sharpened. "From now on," Gior said, "we burn our dead." A ripple of shock moved through the brothers. Burning the dead was what wildlings did. It was what superstitious men did. But after last night, superstition felt like common sense. Benjen Stark's voice cut in, low and hard. "We should send word south," he said. "The realm must know." Bowen Marsh's mouth tightened. "And who will listen?" he asked bitterly. "Kings are busy killing each other. They don't care what walks beyond our wall." Gior's gaze flicked toward the raven cages. "They will care," Gior said, voice iron. "When the dead start walking in their gardens." A chill moved through the crowd. Men shifted, hands tightening on belts, eyes darting as if expecting white eyes to appear between buildings. Thorne's gaze flicked to Jaime again, resentment sharpening. "And what about him?" Thorne demanded. "The Kingslayer in black. Do we trust him with this?" Gior looked at Jaime, his expression unreadable. Jaime held his gaze without flinching. Gior's voice came out blunt. "I trust what he did last night," Gior said. "Not his bloodline, not his past, not his pretty face." Gior's eyes narrowed. "I trust his hands on a torch." Thorne's jaw clenched. "A torch," he sneered. "How noble." Jaime's voice stayed quiet. "If you want noble," Jaime said, "go south and find a song." A few men actually laughed then. Short, harsh, the kind of laughter that released tension because the alternative was screaming. Thorne's face reddened further, and for a heartbeat Jaime thought Thorne might draw steel just to reclaim dominance. But Thorne only glared, because even he felt the Yard's fear shifting priorities. Benjen Stark stepped closer to Jaime, stopping within a few paces. His eyes held Jaime's for a long moment. Jaime could feel the questions behind them. "Why did you insist on burning? Why did you fight? Can I trust you?" Benjen's voice came low. "You were right," he said, and the admission looked like it hurt. Jaime nodded once. "It doesn't make me good," he replied. Benjen's mouth tightened. "No," Benjen agreed. He hesitated, then added almost unwillingly, "But it makes you useful." Jaime felt the words settle. Useful. Not forgiven. Not loved. Not absolved. But in a place like this, usefulness could be the first step toward something else. Across the yard, Jon Snow's gaze met Jaime's briefly. Jon's eyes did not soften, but they held a new edge now. Less pure hatred, more wary assessment. Ghost rose, stretched, and turned his head toward the treeline beyond the palisade, ears pricking as if listening to something distant. The wind shifted, and every man in the yard, from the oldest ranger to the newest recruit, felt it. The sense of being watched from the dark beyond the wall. In the south, the cold took a different shape. It wore green leaves and wet earth. It hid in smiles and sealed letters. It rode in a wineskin passed from hand to hand. Robert Baratheon hunted because he could not bear to sit still with humiliation gnawing at him. He hunted because the woods did not whisper cuckold behind his back. He hunted because a boar could be killed with a spear, and lies could not. The Kingswood was thick with damp. Branches dripped. The sky hung low and gray, threatening rain. Hounds barked and strained at leashes, their excitement sharp and mindless. Men rode with spears and bows, laughing too loudly, trying to pretend the realm was not cracking. Renly Baratheon rode near the king, handsome as a song, his grin bright but his eyes watchful. Ser Barristan Selmy kept close too, his posture rigid with concern he tried not to show. A king was not supposed to look hunted. Lancel Lannister rode a pace behind Robert, young and pale, holding a wineskin like it was a holy offering. His eyes flicked nervously between Robert's broad back and the men around them, as if waiting for something unseen to happen. Robert snatched the wineskin from him and drank deep. Wine spilled down his beard. He wiped it with the back of his hand and laughed. a harsh sound. More, Robert demanded. Lancel hesitated only a heartbeat, then offered another skin. His hands shook slightly. Barristan's eyes narrowed. Your Grace, he began. Robert waved him off. Spare me, Robert snarled. I've had enough men telling me what's good for me. Renly's smile tightened. Perhaps just one cup less, he suggested lightly, trying to soften warning into jest. Robert glared. Are you my Septa now? He snapped. Renly fell silent, jaw tightening. They rode deeper, horns sounding, hounds baying. The forest closed around them like damp fingers. Robert's breath came heavy. His spear was steady in his hand, but his eyes looked slightly glazed, his movements just a fraction slower than they should have been. The boar burst from brush like a nightmare made flesh. It was huge, black-bristled, mud-caked, tusks curved like ivory sickles. Foam flecked its mouth. Its eyes were small and furious. It charged with a speed that made men curse and horses rear. Hold! Robert roared, and his voice lit with the old battle joy, the joy of a problem that could be solved by force. He drove his horse forward, spear lowering. The world narrowed for him, for a heartbeat, into boar and steel and triumph. Then the horse stumbled on slick earth. It was a small stumble, the kind a sober man corrected without thought. But Robert's weight shifted too slow. His spear point wavered. The boar veered and slammed into the horse's chest with a brutal impact. The horse screamed and reared. Robert's body pitched forward. Barristan shouted, reaching out, but too late. Robert hit the ground hard. The breath knocked from him. Mud splashed. The boar spun, snorting, and charged again, tusks aimed at flesh. Robert rolled, tried to rise, spear half lost. His face was fierce, but there was panic under it now. Panic that he could not simply stand and be strong enough. The boar struck. A tusk ripped into Robert's side, tearing leather and flesh. Blood sprayed dark against mud. Robert's roar shook the woods. Rage and pain tangled. Hounds lunged, barking madly. Men shouted. Horses screamed. Renly's face went white as he spurred forward, sword drawn. Barristan moved like a blade released, his steel flashing as he drove toward the boar. The boar thrashed, tusks slashing. A hound died screaming. A hunter went down clutching his leg. Barristan plunged his sword into the boar's neck with a clean, deadly thrust. The beast shuddered, gurgled, and collapsed into the mud, stilling. Silence fell in ragged pieces. Robert lay on his back, eyes wide, blood soaking into earth. His breath came in harsh gasps. His hands clawed at his side as if trying to hold himself together through sheer will. Renly slid off his horse and knelt, hands shaking. "Brother," Renly whispered. Barristan knelt too, face grim. "We must move him," he said. Lancel stood frozen, wineskin still in his hand, his face pale as parchment. His eyes stared at the blood with a horror that looked too much like guilt. Robert's gaze found him. For a heartbeat, Robert's eyes sharpened as if seeing something. Then the pain washed over him again and his face twisted. "Wine!" Robert rasped, voice thick. Barristan's jaw clenched. "No," he said, firm. Robert's eyes flared. "Wine!" he roared weakly, anger clinging to him like a dying flame. Renly looked torn, desperate. Lancel stepped forward like a puppet pulled by strings. He offered the skin with trembling hands. Barristan caught his wrist. "Enough," Barristan snarled, and for the first time the old knight's control cracked into fury. "Enough of feeding him poison." Lancel flinched, eyes wide. Robert coughed, blood bubbling at his lips. His eyes drifted toward the gray sky, unfocused. "Lyanna," he breathed, the name slipping out like a wound reopened. Renly's eyes filled with tears he tried to hide. Barristan's face hardened into stone. The king who had conquered with a hammer lay bleeding in mud because a boar had no respect for crowns. And in the red keep, behind silk-lined walls, a queen waited for the news with the patience of a spider. News traveled faster than ravens when it was soaked in blood. By the time Robert's dying body was dragged back through the Red Keep's gates, King's Landing already tasted the coming storm. Servants whispered in corridors. Gold cloaks tightened patrols. The small folk outside the walls looked up at the keep as if expecting it to crumble. Robert Baratheon did not die with dignity. He died with anger in his throat and confusion in his eyes, and that made the men around him frightened, because a king's death was supposed to be clean in stories. In life it was mud and blood and the smell of failure. Eddard Stark stood in a high chamber as Robert's breath grew shallow, his face grim. Robert's hand clutched at Ned's sleeve with surprising strength. "You will keep them," Robert rasped. Ned leaned close. "I will protect the realm," Ned said, voice steady. "Tell me what you want." Robert's eyes fluttered. For a heartbeat he looked like a boy again, lost. Then pride surged back. "Stannis," Robert breathed. "Heir." He swallowed, blood on his lips. "No." "Lannister." Ned's jaw clenched. "It will be done," he promised. Robert's eyes fixed on him, fierce even as life slipped. "They laughed at me," Robert whispered, and the words were small, almost childlike. "Don't let them." "I won't," Ned said, though he knew he could not promise that. Robert's fingers loosened. His chest rose once more, a harsh rattle, then fell and did not rise again. The room went very still. Renly Baratheon stood near the door, face white, hands trembling. Ser Barristan Selmy bowed his head, the weight of failure pressing his shoulders. Maester Pycelle muttered prayers. Varys's eyes shone with quiet sorrow that looked almost real. Cersei Lannister did not weep. When she was brought to view the king's body, she looked at the dark cloth covering Robert's face with an expression like ice. Her gaze flicked once, briefly, to Lancel Lannister. Lancel's face was pale, his hands shaking. Cersei's eyes told him everything. Silence, obedience, survival. Then she turned to Ned Stark. "Now," Cersei said softly, "we see what sort of man you truly are." Ned's mouth tightened. "The king named Stannis heir," Ned said bluntly. "You will step aside." Cersei's smile was faint and deadly. "The king is dead," she said. "Men can name whatever they like when they are alive. Dead men name nothing." Ned's eyes burned. "The law names," he said. Cersei's gaze sharpened. "The law is parchment," she replied, "and parchment burns." That night, the Red Keep shifted like a beast waking. Gold cloaks moved through corridors with new purpose. Doors that had been watched opened. Cersei's confinement dissolved as if it had never been. Men who had bowed to Ned hours earlier now avoided his eyes. Servants who had carried messages for the Hand suddenly forgot how to speak. Littlefinger came to Ned with soft words and sharper promises. "We must secure the children," Ned said, voice tight. "We must send for Stannis. We must." Littlefinger's smile was gentle. "Of course," he murmured. "And you will need the city watch. Gold cloaks are so very useful when the streets turn." Ned's gaze held him, distrustful. "Can they be trusted?" Ned asked. Littlefinger's smile did not falter. "They can be bought," he replied. Ned's mouth tightened. "Then buy them," he said. Littlefinger bowed as if honored. The next morning, in the throne room, Robert's body lay under dark cloth before the Iron Throne like an accusation. The hall was full, lords drawn by fear, guards drawn by orders, vultures drawn by the scent of power. Ned stood with the hands pinned bright on his chest, a sword in his hand. He read Robert's last will in a voice that did not shake, naming Stannis Baratheon heir, condemning treason, demanding justice. Joffrey Baratheon, Joffrey Lannister, though no one dared speak it openly, stood near the throne, face red with rage. He looked like a boy pretending to be a king by sheer will. "I am the king," Joffrey shouted. "I am." Cersei stepped forward, green and gold, her face calm, her eyes cold. "My son is king," she said, voice smooth. "And any man who denies it denies the realm's peace." Ned's voice cut through. "He is not your son by law," Ned said. He is not Robert's blood. The throne belongs to Stannis. The hall erupted into murmurs. Some men looked away, some clenched fists, some smiled, delighted by chaos. Littlefinger stood behind Ned, close enough to smell. "Now," he whispered. "Say the word." Ned lifted his voice. "Seize the queen," he commanded. "Seize the children. In the name of King Stannis." The gold cloaks poured in. For a heartbeat Ned's heart lifted, then shattered. The gold cloaks did not seize Cersei. They turned their spears toward Ned. Littlefinger's hand slid like a knife behind Ned's back, and his voice came soft, almost kind. "I did warn you not to trust me," he murmured. Ned's eyes widened, then hardened. He raised his sword, but the room had become a trap. Men he thought loyal stepped back. Renly Baratheon's face went pale, and he turned and fled, cloak swirling, because Renly understood survival better than honor. Ser Barristan Selmy's hand hovered near his sword, his face stricken. Duty pulling him one way, disgust the other. Varys watched from the edge, sorrow and calculation braided together. Joffrey's face twisted into triumph. "Kill him," he screamed. Cersei's gaze held Ned's like a blade. "No," she said softly. "Not yet." Gold cloaks slammed spear butts into Ned. He stumbled, pain blooming. He fought because that was what a Stark did. Then numbers crushed him. A blow to the head sent stars across his vision. His sword fell from numb fingers. As Ned Stark hit his knees on cold stone, he heard the Iron Throne's blades whisper in torchlight like laughter. Cersei stepped closer, eyes bright. "You should have accepted my mercy," she murmured, and the word mercy sounded like poison. Ned lifted his head, BL. Wood on his lip. "Your mercy kills," he rasped. Cersei smiled. "So does your honor," she replied. The gold cloaks hauled him away. The hall's murmurs rose like wind. The realm's law had been stabbed in its own throat, and the Iron Throne waited for the next man foolish enough to call it justice. Far north, beneath an ancient wall, ravens beat their wings against cages, carrying the scent of war toward men who thought war was only a southern problem. The raven arrived with frost on its wings and war in its ink. It beat against the cage bars like a trapped heartbeat, shrieking until a brother swore and yanked the door open. The bird launched into the cold air of the Ravenry, circled once, then landed on Jeor Mormont's arm as if it belonged there. Jeor's face tightened as he took the message tube from its leg. The yard below was still dark, the sky barely hinting at dawn. Torches bobbed as brothers moved through shadows, called out of sleep by the urgent bark of orders. The wall groaned softly above them. The wind slid down its face like a whisper. Jeor broke the seal and read. His jaw clenched. He read again, slower, as if the words refused to become real. Maester Aemon stood nearby, leaning slightly on a brother's arm, blind eyes turned toward the sound of Jeor's breath. Benjen Stark stepped closer, snow dusting his shoulders, his face already hard. "What?" Benjen demanded. Jeor looked up, eyes grim. "Robert Baratheon is dead," he said. The words struck the yard like a dropped axe. Men stared. Some crossed themselves. Some spat. Some simply looked lost, because kings were faraway ideas until their deaths became consequences. Jeor continued, voice cold. "Eddard Stark has been seized in the Red Keep," he said. "Cersei Lannister has placed her son on the throne. Stannis Baratheon is named heir by Robert's will and calls it treason." Jeor's mouth tightened. "Tywin Lannister has called banners." A low murmur rose. Fear and anger and disbelief tangled. Jaime stood near the edge of the gathering, black cloak pulled tight, the scratch on his cheek healing into a red line. The news hit him like a fist to the ribs. Robert dead.
Ned ceased.
Cersei free. Va. It was the shape of a nightmare he had hoped confession might soften. Instead it had sharpened it, turned it into something inevitable. Jon Snow stood a few paces away, face pale, fists clenched. Ghost's ears were pricked, red eyes scanning the men as if the real threat might come from within. Benjen's gaze flicked to Jon, quick, worried. then hard again. He turned back to Jeor. "The North will march," Benjen said, voice tight. "If Ned is taken, Robb Stark will." Jeor raised a hand. "The Watch does not march," he said, voice iron. "We do not choose kings." Benjen's jaw clenched. "And if the realm burns?" Benjen demanded. "What then?" Jeor's gaze hardened. "Then the realm burns," Jeor said. "And we hold the wall while it burns." Bowen Marsh stepped forward, face pinched with dread. "If war breaks the South," he said, voice thin, "our supplies will stop. Food, steel, men, everything we need." Othel Yarwick muttered a curse. "And wildlings will come," he added. "They always come when men are busy killing men." Maester Eamon's voice cut through, soft but steady. "And the dead will come," he said. The yard went still again. Jeor looked at Eamon, grim understanding passing between them. The White's ashes still smoked in memory. The haunted forest's wrong cold still clung to their bones. Jeor's voice rose, carrying. "This is why we cannot be dragged into southern wars," he said. "The realm thinks crowns matter. We know better." Benjen's face tightened. "Ned Stark is my brother," he said, and his voice cracked slightly on the truth. Jeor's gaze softened a fraction, then hardened again. "And I am sorry," Jeor said, "but the Watch is larger than any one man's blood." Jaime felt the weight of that statement settle. It was the cruel purity of the wall. It did not allow a man to save what he loved if saving it meant breaking what he had sworn. Jeor turned his gaze to the gathered brothers. "We ride north," he said abruptly, a ripple of shock. Benjen's eyes narrowed. "North?" he demanded. Jeor's mouth tightened. "The dead walked in my chambers," he said. "Rangers die beyond the wall. The cold changes." He nodded toward the darkness beyond the palisade. "We find out why before it finds us." The horn sounded on the wall then, one long blast that rolled through the cold air like a warning. Men stiffened instinctively. Hands went to sword hilts. Eyes lifted toward the top of the wall. Jon Snow's posture tightened. "Ready." Jeor looked up, face grim. "Signal," he barked. "What is it?" A shout came faintly from above, distant, wind-torn. "Movement." The yard snapped into motion, torches flaring, men running to posts. Ghosts snarled low, hackles rising. Jeor's gaze flicked briefly to Jaime as the world surged. "You wanted duty," Jeor said, voice rough. "Here it is." Jaime's throat tightened. He nodded once. "I'm ready," he said, though he didn't know if any man could be ready for what waited beyond the wall. Benjen Stark moved toward the gate with grim purpose, and for the first time he did not try to block Jaime's path. He only glanced at him once, hard and assessing, as if deciding whether Jaime would break when the real night came. Jaime followed, black cloak snapping in wind, heart hammering. Not with court fear, not with pride, but with the cold, clean knowledge that the South's wars were now only half the story. Somewhere beyond the wall, something had begun to move. And the night did not care who sat on the Iron Throne.